For thousands of years, humanity has searched for answers to the mysteries of our ancient past. But what if some of these secrets are so strange, so mind-bending, that they defy all explanation? From colossal structures that shouldn't exist, to civilizations whose knowledge seems far beyond their time, our history is littered with enigmas that science has yet to unravel. Who built the Great Pyramids, and why? What is the true purpose of the ancient structures buried deep beneath the earth? And why do some of these artifacts seem to carry knowledge lost to time? Join us as we journey through 3 hours of baffling archaeological discoveries, each one more perplexing than the last. And ask yourself, what if the past is not what we think it is? In the arid hills of Palestine, where the desert stretches endlessly and time seems to stand still, lies a towering monument to a bygone era, Herodium. This ancient hilltop fortress, rising 758 meters above sea level, commands the landscape with an imposing presence, its slopes carved by centuries of wind and history. At first glance, it is a structure like no other, an artificial mountain, a grand and deliberate work of human ambition. But as with many ancient sites, the mystery of Herodium is not only found in its imposing architecture, but in the secrets it holds beneath its surface. Herodium was built by King Herod the Great in the 1st century BC, a ruler known for his ruthless political maneuvering and grandiose construction projects. It is said to have served both as a luxurious palace and a military stronghold, providing Herod with a vantage point to oversee the region and a sanctuary from potential threats. Yet, as majestic as it is, Herodium also carries a deep, unsettling air of something more, something that remains unanswered. Why would a king build such an extraordinary, isolated complex, far from the centers of power in Jerusalem? Was it simply a mark of wealth and grandeur? Or was there a deeper, more enigmatic purpose that has since faded into the sands of time? The structure of Herodium itself is a marvel. Herod's engineers reshaped the natural hill into a massive, artificial mound, topped with a royal palace surrounded by gardens, theaters, and a pool. The entire site appears as if it were designed to symbolize a kingdom's might and reach. Yet the most curious aspect of Herodium is not the visible grandeur, but what lies hidden within it. Beneath the fortress, archaeologists have uncovered a burial tomb, a tomb that some believe might have belonged to the very king who commissioned its construction. Was Herod himself laid to rest here, within the heart of his creation, or was the tomb, like the fortress itself, a part of a greater, more cryptic legacy? The mystery deepens when we consider the question of Herod's death. According to ancient accounts, after his passing in 4 BC, his body was taken to a burial site that had been meticulously prepared for him. Yet, despite the extensive excavations, no conclusive evidence has ever been found to confirm the exact location of his final resting place. Some argue that Herodium, with its monumental tomb, was built as a shrine to his memory, a statement of his enduring power. Others, however, suggest that the tomb may have been looted or deliberately hidden, perhaps to protect it from desecration by those who sought to erase the memory of a tyrant. While the mainstream narrative tells us that Herodium was simply the work of a powerful king indulging in his passion for architecture, there are alternative theories that hint at something more profound. Some historians speculate that Herodium was not just a fortress, but a symbol of divine power, an earthly manifestation of a king who saw himself as chosen by the gods. In this light, the bizarre and seemingly misplaced location of the site could be seen as part of Herod's attempt to place himself in a cosmic context, perhaps even to challenge the heavens themselves. Further complicating the mystery is the fact that Herodium remained an active site for centuries after Herod's death. It was used by later rulers, and later still by Christian monks during the Byzantine period. Yet despite its continuous occupation, the fortress fell into relative obscurity, a forgotten relic of an age long past. Was there something about Herodium that made it both sacred and dangerous, a place that could not be fully abandoned, but also could not remain in the spotlight? Today, Herodium stands as a silent witness to history. Its walls, partially restored, cast long shadows over the surrounding landscape, inviting speculation, but offering few answers. The theories, both grounded and speculative, continue to swirl around the site. Was it merely the grandiose ambition of a king, or was it a place of deeper, perhaps darker significance? What, if anything, might still lie hidden in the depths of Herodium's tombs, unearthing the secrets of a ruler whose reign remains both celebrated and reviled? As the excavation of Herodium continues, we are left with more questions than answers. What lies buried beneath its earth? What knowledge has been lost, and what may still be uncovered in the years to come? The mystery of Herodium persists, and it is clear that the true nature of this ancient marvel may be far more complex than we can imagine. As we leave the windswept hills of Herodium behind and journey across continents, we arrive in a place that, while far removed in both time and geography, holds just as much mystery and intrigue. Mesa Verde, in the arid desert landscapes of the American Southwest. Here, perched high above the valley floor, ancient cliff dwellings rise from the rock faces like silent sentinels of a long-lost civilization. The sight of these structures, carved directly into the towering cliffs, invites awe and wonder, but it also raises unsettling questions. How and why did the people of Mesa Verde build their homes in such a seemingly inaccessible place? Mesa Verde, meaning green table in Spanish, is a vast archaeological park in what is now Colorado, USA. The cliff dwellings here are the remnants of the ancestral Puebloans, an ancient people who lived in the region from roughly 600 AD to 1300 AD. Their most remarkable achievement, an intricate network of homes, ceremonial spaces, and storage rooms built into the cliffs, suggests a highly advanced society, one capable of mastering architecture in ways that defy expectations. Some of these structures, like the famed Cliff Palace, were tucked into sheltered alcoves in sheer rock faces, seemingly defying both gravity and logic. These cliff dwellings, constructed from sandstone, wood, and adobe, are not just architectural feats. They are symbols of survival and ingenuity. The ancestral Puebloans built these communities high in the cliffs for practical reasons, of course. The location provided natural protection from enemies, as well as easier access to water from nearby streams and rivers. Yet, the very complexity of these structures invites further reflection. The dwellings were not hastily thrown together but were carefully planned, with complex designs that suggest a deep understanding of engineering, space, and sustainability. However, while we can trace the broad outline of the ancestral Puebloans' existence, questions remain about the purpose and symbolism behind the cliff dwellings. What motivated this decision to build high above the ground? Why not settle in the fertile valleys below, where resources were abundant and life might have been easier? Was the choice to build in these cliffs purely practical, or did it carry some deeper, perhaps spiritual significance? Mainstream archaeological explanations suggest that the cliff dwellings were built as a response to increased conflict in the region. As the ancestral Puebloans faced growing tension with neighboring tribes, the cliffs provided a natural defense, a high vantage point from which to observe and defend against potential threats. Yet this theory alone does not explain the sheer scale and intricacy of the construction. These people were not merely building fortifications. They were creating homes that, in some cases, could house hundreds of people. Why such a grand scale? What's more, the architectural design of these cliff dwellings appears to follow a level of sophistication that goes beyond the immediate needs of survival. In several sites, such as Cliff Palace and Balcony House, we see elaborate stone masonry, multi-story buildings, and even advanced features like kivas, ceremonial chambers believed to have held spiritual or social significance. These structures were not simply practical, they were carefully designed to reflect a sense of community, connection, and perhaps even a cosmic order. There are also other, more speculative theories surrounding the significance of the cliff dwellings. Some researchers have suggested that the ancestral Puebloans may have been influenced by astronomical alignments, with certain structures potentially serving as observatories for tracking celestial bodies. The positioning of some dwellings and ceremonial structures aligns with the sun's movement, hinting at a deeper connection between the people and the cosmos. Could these cliff dwellings have been more than just homes and fortifications? Could they have been built as part of a larger, more elaborate ritualistic or religious complex, one that tied the inhabitants to the forces of nature and the universe? One theory, which remains highly speculative, suggests that the ancestral Puebloans were not simply seeking refuge from external threats, but were perhaps responding to something more profound, a growing sense of cosmic or existential unease. Was the decision to build in the cliffs part of a greater spiritual journey, an attempt to transcend the mundane and reach for something higher? Were these people trying to create a sacred space, one that bridged the gap between earth and sky, between the human and the divine? Even more puzzling is the sudden disappearance of the ancestral Puebloans from Mesa Verde around the late 13th century. By 1300 AD, the once thriving cliff communities were abandoned. But what caused this mass exodus? Was it environmental factors, such as drought or the depletion of resources? Or was it something more? An internal crisis, a loss of faith, or a catastrophic event? While many archaeologists point to prolonged droughts as a contributing factor, the abruptness of the departure suggests that there may have been something more to the story. Did the Puebloans leave on their own accord, or were they forced out by something unseen, something unknown? And if they did leave, what happened to the knowledge they accumulated during their time at Mesa Verde? While some descendants of the Puebloans still inhabit the region, the cliff dwellings themselves remain abandoned, leaving only their silent, weathered stone structures behind. Was the knowledge contained within these dwellings lost to time, or could it still be hidden in the forgotten corners of the land, waiting to be rediscovered? Today, as we walk the winding paths through the cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde, it is impossible not to feel the weight of history. The wind whispers through the stone, and the ancient architecture speaks of a people who, despite their remarkable achievements, left behind more questions than answers. The mysteries of their lives, their spiritual beliefs, and the reasons behind their sudden disappearance linger in the air like a ghost of the past. As we stand before these awe-inspiring structures, we are reminded that, even in the modern age, there are still ancient mysteries that continue to elude our understanding. And so, as we leave Mesa Verde behind, we must ask ourselves, what if the answers to these questions are buried not just in the rocks and walls, but in the very essence of the land itself, waiting for the right moment to reveal their secrets? What if the real mystery is not just what the ancestral Puebloans built, but why they chose to leave so abruptly, and what they might have known that we have yet to understand? As the sun begins to set over the windswept hills of Wales, there lies a mysterious monument that has stood for over 5,000 years, quietly observing the passage of time. Bryn Celli Ddu, a Neolithic burial mound, rises from the earth as an enigmatic relic of a distant past, its secrets hidden within the stones that surround it. The name, which means Hill of the Dark Grove in Welsh, evokes an aura of mystery, suggesting that it has long been a place tied to the unknown, to rituals, and to the celestial forces that shaped the lives of its creators. Unlike the towering stone circles of Stonehenge or the grand megaliths of other ancient sites, Bryn Celli Ddu is a more subtle structure, its significance wrapped in layers of history and symbolism. Standing at the center of a quiet meadow on the island of Anglesey, the mound itself appears unassuming at first. Yet, beneath its grassy surface lies a chambered tomb, one that, over millennia, has remained a testament to the ingenuity and belief systems of the people who constructed it. The structure consists of a large, circular mound surrounded by a stone circle with a narrow passage leading into the tomb's inner chamber. The tomb is made of carefully placed stones, arranged to create a small, enclosed space. It is here, in this space, that archaeologists believe important individuals from the community were laid to rest, along with offerings, perhaps to accompany them on their journey to the afterlife. But this burial site is not just a simple resting place. It is a site that holds numerous mysteries, both in its construction and its intended use. What makes Bryn Celli Ddu particularly intriguing is its alignment with the movements of the sun. The passage that leads into the chamber is aligned with the midsummer sunrise, suggesting that the people who built it had a deep understanding of celestial events. The moment when the sun's rays first touched the chamber's entrance would have been a powerful, almost sacred event, bathing the tomb in light for the briefest of moments. This alignment hints at the possibility that the tomb was not simply a burial site, but a place where the dead were believed to transcend into the realms of the divine, guided by the light of the sun. Was this a spiritual journey designed to facilitate the passage of the soul into the afterlife? Or was the sunlight itself considered a conduit between the living and the gods? Mainstream interpretations of Bryn Celli Ddu suggest that it was used as a burial site for high-ranking individuals, likely chieftains or leaders, whose tombs were marked by both grandeur and celestial significance. The sun's rays, shining into the chamber at specific times of the year, could have been seen as a ritualized event that marked the transition of the deceased into a higher plane. In this sense, the site may have been both a physical and spiritual threshold, a place of profound transformation. Yet, there are still many unanswered questions surrounding the site. Why, for instance, was the tomb built with such care and attention to celestial alignment, especially in such a remote and seemingly humble location? Were the people of Bryn Celli Ddu alone in their devotion to the sun, or were there broader cultural connections across ancient Europe, shared beliefs, shared practices, that we have yet to fully uncover? Was this tomb constructed as part of a larger spiritual or social network, perhaps tied to the ancient cults of the dead or other mysterious traditions? More than just the tomb itself, the surrounding landscape offers further clues to the mystery of Bryn Celli Ddu. Excavations have uncovered a rich array of artifacts, including pottery, tools, and bone fragments, which suggest that the area was not merely a burial ground, but a site for communal gatherings and rituals. Could it be that Bryn Celli Ddu was used for ceremonies that extended far beyond the act of burial? Was it a place where people gathered to honor the dead, to communicate with the spirits, or to engage in celestial worship? The evidence is scarce, but the possibility remains that the true purpose of this site is far more complex than we can currently comprehend. There are also theories, though more speculative, that suggest Bryn Celli Ddu may have been a place of initiation or spiritual transformation. Some have speculated that the tomb could have been used for rituals involving the living, perhaps to mark important life stages, such as rites of passage, birth, or death. Given the alignment of the tomb with the sun, it's possible that the chamber was used as a place where individuals could experience a kind of spiritual rebirth or awakening, perhaps drawing on the symbolic power of the sun's light to bring about change or enlightenment. Could this have been a place where the living interacted with the dead, where the boundary between the two worlds was believed to be thin and permeable? Additionally, some fringe theories suggest that Bryn Celli Ddu, like many other ancient burial sites, could have been built with knowledge we have yet to understand. Was the alignment of the sun not just a spiritual gesture, but a sophisticated astronomical calculation? Could there have been knowledge of the stars, the seasons, or even more obscure celestial events, passed down through generations and encoded into the very architecture of the site? Was Bryn Celli Ddu merely a ceremonial center, or did it hold an even deeper, more hidden function, one lost to time. The continued mystery of Bryn Celli Ddu is heightened by the fact that much of its original meaning and purpose has been lost to history. Despite extensive archaeological work, many of the site's secrets remain just beyond reach. What motivated the builders of Bryn Celli Ddu to create such an extraordinary and celestial monument? What did they believe about the afterlife, and how did they perceive their connection to the cosmos? As we stand before the ancient stones of Bryn Celli Ddu today, it is difficult not to feel the weight of these questions pressing in. The sunlight streaming through the passage at dawn might still feel like an invitation to understand something greater, something that remains just beyond our grasp. In the quiet of the Welsh countryside, with only the wind and the stones as companions, we are left to wonder. What ancient truths still lie hidden within the darkness of Bryn Celli Ddu waiting to be uncovered? From the quiet stones of Bryn Celli Ddu, we now turn our gaze toward the vast jungles of Central America, toward a place where the echoes of an ancient civilization still seem to whisper through the dense canopy. Tikal, located in the heart of the Guatemalan rainforest, is one of the most majestic and mysterious cities of the Maya civilization. Though the towering pyramids and temples of Tikal are known to many, the true story of this once thriving metropolis remains elusive, its secrets buried beneath centuries of thick foliage and time itself. Tikal, a sprawling complex of over 3,000 structures, rises from the jungle like a forgotten city of the gods. Its tallest pyramids, such as Temple 4, soar 70 meters into the sky, visible for miles around. The site, which flourished from approximately 600 BC to 900 AD, was a powerful political and cultural center, its influence extending across much of the Maya world. But as we look closer at Tikal's ruins, it becomes clear that the story of this ancient city is not one of simple conquest or urban development. There is something more, something deeply mysterious about its rise, its achievements, and its sudden and dramatic decline. As we walk through the ruins of Tikal, the first thing that strikes you is the sheer scale of the place. The immense pyramids, the grand plazas, the ceremonial ball courts, they all point to a highly advanced society, one that understood not only architecture and astronomy, but also the intricate social and spiritual systems that bound their people together. Tikal's central plaza is dominated by the towering Temple 1 and Temple 2, two of the city's most iconic structures, built to honor the great rulers of Tikal. In the shadow of these temples, a visitor might feel a sense of awe, wondering what these structures were meant to represent, and why such grand monuments were constructed in such a remote and inhospitable jungle. It is in the mysteries of Tikal's rapid decline, however, where the real intrigue lies. Around the end of the 9th century AD, the city, which had been a hub of political power, trade, and culture, was suddenly abandoned. By 900 AD, most of the major buildings had fallen silent. This abandonment is one of the most puzzling aspects of Tikal's history. The reason for the fall of this once great city is unclear. Some scholars suggest that environmental factors, such as drought or deforestation, may have played a role, while others point to internal social unrest or warfare with neighboring city-states as possible causes. But there are no definitive answers. The question remains, why did Tikal, a city at the height of its power, suddenly fall into ruin? Mainstream explanations point to the likely combination of environmental stress and warfare. The Maya civilization, particularly in the southern lowlands where Tikal was situated, relied heavily on agriculture, and some researchers believe that prolonged droughts during this period may have led to crop failures, food shortages, and social unrest. Others suggest that the constant warfare between rival Maya city-states may have led to Tikal's downfall, with the city eventually being overrun or left vulnerable by internal divisions. Yet, these explanations fail to fully account for the suddenness of the collapse and the fact that other nearby cities, though affected by similar factors, did not experience the same swift decline. Could there have been other forces at play, forces that we do not yet understand? Some theories suggest that the Maya, like many ancient cultures, were deeply connected to the natural world, and their cities were built not only for political and social reasons, but also for cosmic ones. Could Tikal's rulers have believed that their city was in alignment with the gods, and that the cosmos itself turned against them when disaster struck? Was the decline of Tikal not just a consequence of environmental or political pressures, but a spiritual crisis, a sign of cosmic imbalance? There are, of course, more speculative theories that challenge the conventional explanations. One of the most intriguing involves the idea of a lost connection to ancient, unknown technologies or knowledge. Some have suggested that the Maya possessed a form of advanced knowledge, whether astronomical, mathematical, or even architectural, that is now lost to us. Could the Maya of Tikal have known something about the forces of nature, or the stars, that we have yet to rediscover? Could the precise alignments of Tikal's temples, aligned not only to the sun, moon, and stars, but also to specific celestial events, be more than mere coincidence? Was the city's decline somehow tied to the loss of this esoteric knowledge, as if the Maya had lost their connection to the cosmos itself? Others have suggested that Tikal's downfall was not the result of a natural disaster or warfare, but the result of a more profound social or spiritual shift. The Maya were a deeply religious people, and their rulers were often considered divine figures, intermediaries between the gods and their people. What if, as some have speculated, a radical change in religious beliefs or practices led to the collapse of the city's societal structure? Could the loss of faith in their rulers or their gods have led to the disintegration of Tikal's political system? Were there factions within the city, perhaps even factions of priests or spiritual leaders, whose ideological or spiritual differences played a role in the downfall of the city? Moreover, there are those who have even suggested that Tikal's decline was not an abandonment at all, but a deliberate retreat, perhaps by the rulers or priests who wished to escape the growing instability. Could the Maya have simply chosen to leave, abandoning their city and their temples for reasons that we cannot yet fully comprehend? Or could there be another explanation, one that lies beyond the grasp of conventional archaeological inquiry? Despite centuries of exploration and excavation, much of Tikal's true history remains shrouded in mystery. The ruins still stand as silent witnesses to a civilization that achieved remarkable feats in architecture, astronomy, and governance. Yet, the questions surrounding Tikal's rise and fall linger in the air like a mist, leaving us to wonder what might still be hidden within the jungle, waiting to be uncovered. Is it possible that the Maya understood more about the universe than we ever realized? Perhaps more than even modern science has yet to discover? What if the story of Tikal, like so many other ancient civilizations, holds hidden knowledge that, if found, could reshape our understanding of the past? As we continue to dig through the layers of history, we may one day find answers. But until then, Tikal remains one of the greatest enigmas of the ancient world, a testament to the brilliance and the mysteries of the Maya, waiting patiently for the secrets it holds to finally be revealed. As we leave the dense jungles of Tikal behind, we travel across the Mediterranean, toward a place where fire and water have combined to shape a landscape unlike any other. Santorini, a Greek island of stark beauty and turbulent history, hides within it a mystery so profound that it continues to baffle archaeologists and historians alike. Beneath its serene, whitewashed cliffs lies the ancient city of Akrotiri, a site buried for centuries beneath layers of volcanic ash, a city frozen in time, its fate sealed by one of the most powerful natural disasters in history. Akrotiri was a thriving Bronze Age city, nestled on the southern tip of Santorini, part of the Cycladic Islands. Its wealth, advanced urban planning, and vibrant art suggest that it was one of the most prosperous centers of the ancient Aegean world. The city was not just a settlement, it was a hub of culture, commerce, and innovation. Its streets were lined with multi-story buildings, its frescoes depicting scenes of daily life, and its pottery adorned with intricate designs. When the eruption of the Thera volcano buried the city around 1600 BC, it was, in a sense, a sudden end to a golden age. The ashes preserved the city almost perfectly, like a snapshot of a civilization lost to the world. The discovery of Akrotiri in the 19th century was a revelation. The ruins, carefully excavated, revealed an extraordinary level of sophistication for its time. Drainage systems, multicolored frescoes, and evidence of trade with distant lands. Yet, even as archaeologists uncovered the city's treasures, they were left with more questions than answers. How did the people of Akrotiri manage to achieve such complexity in a time so far removed from what we consider advanced civilizations? And why, with such remarkable architectural and artistic achievements, did their society vanish so suddenly? Mainstream historical explanations have long pointed to the eruption of the Thera volcano as the cause of the city's destruction. The eruption, one of the largest in recorded history, sent ash, lava, and pumice high into the air, blanketing Akrotiri and its surroundings. The city's inhabitants, however, likely had some warning. Evidence suggests that the people of Akrotiri had time to evacuate, perhaps days or even weeks before the eruption's final catastrophic blast. So, if the city was largely spared the worst of the eruption's immediate effects, what caused it to be abandoned and its culture lost to history? The first and most widely accepted explanation is that the eruption's after-effects led to the city's collapse. Ashfall, tsunamis, and climate changes may have triggered a series of cascading effects that eventually disrupted the island's way of life. However, this doesn't account for the relatively quick and thorough abandonment of the city. The inhabitants of Akrotiri were not completely wiped out. Rather, they seem to have vanished, leaving behind a perfectly preserved city with no signs of a struggle or violent destruction. This has led some researchers to speculate that something more mysterious may have occurred. Could the eruption have had a psychological or cultural impact that led to the sudden abandonment? There are theories, though speculative, that the eruption may have been seen by the inhabitants as a divine warning or even a cosmic sign of doom. The volcanic eruption itself would have been a profoundly terrifying event, perhaps interpreted as the wrath of the gods. Could the people of Akrotiri, so deeply connected to their spiritual beliefs, have felt compelled to abandon their homes, perhaps in search of a safer place, or in an effort to placate these unseen forces? If so, could there have been some ritualistic or spiritual significance to the abandonment of the city, rather than it being a purely pragmatic decision to flee the eruption? Beyond this, there are also more fringe theories that suggest the destruction of Akrotiri may have been part of a larger, more widespread catastrophe, one that transcended mere volcanic activity. Some theorists have linked the eruption of Thera with the collapse of multiple ancient civilizations across the Mediterranean and Near East. Was the eruption part of a series of cataclysmic events that led to a broader regional collapse? Events so profound that they caused a societal upheaval that rippled through ancient cultures? Some even suggest that the eruption may have triggered a wave of changes in the climate, disrupting agricultural production across the region and leading to widespread societal destabilization. Perhaps the most captivating theory ties the eruption of Thera to the myth of Atlantis. The ancient Greek philosopher Plato wrote of a great and powerful civilization that existed beyond the Pillars of Hercules, a utopian society that was eventually swallowed by the sea. While many dismiss the story as legend, Some researchers have speculated that the tale of Atlantis was based on the eruption of Thera and the destruction of Akrotiri. Could the fall of Akrotiri, this advanced island-based civilization, have inspired the myth? Were the people of Thera the historical roots of Plato's fabled Atlantis, with the eruption and its aftermath serving as the catalyst for the legend of a lost, sunken civilization? Despite these fascinating theories, the reality is that much of Akrotiri's true story remains locked in time. The city's remarkable preservation raises as many questions as it answers. Why was it so advanced? How did its inhabitants achieve such levels of prosperity and innovation? Were they part of a larger, perhaps more ancient network of cultures that connected across the Mediterranean, exchanging goods, ideas, and technologies in ways we are only beginning to understand? There is also the question of how Akrotiri fits into the larger context of the ancient Aegean world. The island of Thera was a prominent trading hub, and its eruption would have had significant consequences on the civilizations surrounding it, including Crete and mainland Greece. How did the fallout from the eruption ripple through these cultures? Did the collapse of Akrotiri influence the Minoans, whose civilization was already at its zenith? Did it contribute to the downfall of other Bronze Age societies? Or was the eruption simply one part of a much larger, more complex historical narrative, one that we are still piecing together, one layer at a time? As we look out over the ruins of Akrotiri today, the silence of the site speaks volumes. The frescoes, depicting vibrant scenes of nature, animals, and daily life, stand as a testament to the culture that once thrived here. The intricacy of the architecture, the care with which it was built, and the evidence of trade and communication with distant lands all suggest a civilization that was far more complex than we often imagine for its time. And yet, as we peer into the remnants of this long-lost city, we are left to wonder, what exactly happened to the people of Akrotiri? Was the eruption of Thera merely a natural disaster? Or did it serve as a catalyst for something far deeper, something that we have yet to fully understand? And perhaps more profoundly, what secrets might still be hidden beneath the ash, waiting for us to uncover? The mystery of Akrotiri, like so many ancient stories, remains a puzzle, its pieces scattered across time, waiting for the right questions to be asked. As we move from the volcanic ashes of Akrotiri to the ancient heart of Mesopotamia, a land once known as the cradle of civilization, we encounter a structure that towers over history with both awe and mystery: the Ziggurat of Ur. Rising from the vast plains of southern Iraq, this colossal step pyramid remains a testament to the power, devotion, and ingenuity of one of the earliest urban societies in human history, the Sumerians. The Ziggurat of Ur, dedicated to the moon god Nana, stands as a silent relic of a civilization that flourished around 2100 BC. Its massive mud brick base and towering terraces once reached toward the heavens, a beacon of both religious devotion and political might. To approach the site today is to feel the weight of history pressing in, the towering ruins offering little more than a glimpse into a long-forgotten world. Even in its current, partially restored state, the Ziggurat of Ur is an impressive sight. The base measures approximately 64 by 45 meters, and its stepped design rises to a height of about 21 meters. A vast structure that would have dominated the landscape in its prime. The ziggurat was once part of a larger temple complex, surrounded by ceremonial gates and adorned with carvings that celebrated the divine. It's believed that the ziggurat was not just a monumental architectural feat, but also a place where the people of Ur could connect with the gods, where earthly rulers, such as King Ur-Nammu, would conduct rituals designed to honor their divine patrons. As awe-inspiring as it is, the Ziggurat of Ur raises intriguing questions. questions that continue to challenge our understanding of early Mesopotamian society. Why was such an enormous structure built in the first place? What did it represent to the Sumerians, and how was it used in both religious and political life? The mainstream understanding is that ziggurats were temples, massive, pyramid-like structures designed to honor the gods and serve as the focal point for both worship and the rituals that sustained the society. However, some have speculated that the purpose of the Ziggurat of Ur was far more than a mere religious monument. Was it a symbol of divine rule, designed to physically and symbolically bridge the gap between earth and the heavens? Or did the ziggurat serve other, less understood purposes that remain lost to time? What is clear is that the Sumerians, one of the first known civilizations to develop writing, were deeply entrenched in their religious beliefs. They envisioned the heavens as a realm where the gods resided, and the ziggurats served as physical manifestations of this belief. These structures were meant to bring the temple closer to the sky, symbolizing a connection between the divine and the earthly. In this sense, the ziggurat wasn't merely a place of worship. It was a representation of the celestial order, a cosmic axis that tied the physical world to the heavens. Yet, the sheer scale of the Ziggurat of Ur suggests there was something more to it than just a religious function. The Sumerians were known for their sophisticated administration, their vast trade networks, and their complex social structures. Could the ziggurat have also been a political statement, a demonstration of the ruler's power, not just in terms of divine favor, but in the practical, material world as well? Could it have served as a symbol of state authority, a monument that asserted the power of the king to both rule on earth and represent the god's will? The Sumerians, like many ancient civilizations, often linked the legitimacy of their rulers to divine approval, and the Ziggurat of Ur could have been both a religious and political tool, reinforcing the king's divine mandate. But even as we consider the role of the ziggurat in the daily life of the Sumerians, we are left with lingering questions. Why did the Sumerians construct such an immense structure, especially when so many other early civilizations relied on simpler, less monumental temples? Was there something unique about the Sumerian religious worldview that led them to design these grand structures, or was the Ziggurat of Ur a response to some other force, perhaps a growing need for urbanization or consolidation of political power? More speculative theories have arisen over the years, many of which question whether the Ziggurat of Ur was simply a religious or political monument, or whether it may have served a more mysterious function. Could the ziggurat have had astronomical significance, aligning with celestial events or star movements in ways that we have yet to fully decipher? The Sumerians were highly adept in astronomy and mathematics, and some suggest that the ziggurat could have been a kind of observatory, perhaps even used to track the movements of the moon, which was central to Sumerian belief. Could the ziggurat have been designed to serve as a giant calendar or timekeeping device, its construction tied to specific celestial alignments that were believed to influence earthly events? Given that the Sumerians had a detailed understanding of the heavens and placed great importance on the movement of stars and planets, it is conceivable that the Ziggurat of Ur may have served not only as a temple, but also as an astronomical instrument, a device built to honor the gods while also marking the passage of time in a way that would have been understood only by those initiated into the mysteries of Sumerian cosmology. And yet, there are even more fringe theories, some of which speculate that the Ziggurat of Ur, along with other ancient structures of its kind, may have had a purpose beyond the realm of the physical world altogether. Could the ziggurat have been designed as part of some esoteric mystical tradition, one that we are only beginning to understand? Could it have been part of a larger network of ancient monuments and temples designed to align with a forgotten system of energy or knowledge? These theories are, of course, speculative, but they invite us to consider the possibility that ancient structures like the Ziggurat of Ur
were not just constructed for practical or religious reasons, but for purposes that lie beyond the ordinary scope of our current understanding. As we explore the Ziggurat of Ur, we are confronted with more questions than answers. Its monumental scale, intricate design, and purpose, both spiritual and political, invite us to reflect on the sophistication of the Sumerian civilization. How did the Sumerians, so early in human history, develop such a remarkable understanding of architecture, astronomy, and statecraft? What did they know about the cosmos that we have lost in the passage of time? Was the Ziggurat of Ur simply a religious monument, or was it a symbol of something deeper, something that we have yet to uncover? The Ziggurat of Ur stands today as a powerful reminder of the ingenuity of the Sumerians, and the mysteries of their civilization continue to haunt us. Beneath the layers of history and time, one must ask, what else might still be hidden within its ruins? What did the ancient architects and rulers of Ur truly understand about their world, and what secrets might still be waiting to be uncovered, hidden beneath the dust of millennia? The answers may be just out of reach, but the quest to find them continues, as we search for meaning in the stones that remain.
Leaving the grandeur of the Ziggurat of Ur behind, we turn our gaze to a more enigmatic fortress, a structure hidden deep in the rugged mountains of the Caucasus region. The Abuli Fortress, perched atop a steep hill in modern-day Georgia, is a site that remains largely shrouded in mystery. Unlike the towering pyramids or grand temples of ancient civilizations, Abuli Fortress is not widely known, but it harbors secrets that could reveal much about the people who built it, and perhaps even about those who might have known far more than we realize. The fortress itself is an imposing sight. Built of massive stone blocks and surrounded by sheer cliffs, it stands as a silent sentinel, surveying the valleys below. The structure's most remarkable feature is its location. Positioned on a narrow peak that is all but inaccessible, with only a small and precarious path leading to its entrance. From the vantage point of the fortress, one can see the lush, wild expanse of the Caucasian Mountains stretching to the horizon, a vast wilderness that would have made it virtually impossible for any would-be invaders to approach unnoticed. It's a place designed for defense, a place where survival was built into the very geography. But it is also a place that begs the question, who would go to such lengths to construct such a fortress in this remote and inhospitable location? The fortress itself dates back to around the 10th century AD, though its origins are still debated. Some historians believe it was built by local rulers during the medieval period, while others suggest its origins may lie even earlier, possibly tied to the ancient kingdoms that once dominated this region. Regardless of its exact origins, Abuli Fortress is undeniably a testament to the engineering prowess and strategic thinking of its creators. The sheer scale and complexity of the structure point to a people who were not only concerned with defense, but also with asserting their control over the surrounding land. But as we explore the history of Abuli Fortress, we quickly realize that its true purpose remains elusive. While it is widely accepted that the fortress served as a stronghold during times of war, it's unclear exactly what role it played in the region's broader political landscape. Was it simply a military outpost, or was it something more? Some suggest that the fortress may have been the site of a royal palace, a place where rulers could oversee their lands from a position of near invulnerability. Others believe it may have been a ceremonial site, a place where ancient rituals were performed or where powerful figures gathered to make important decisions. The mystery deepens when we consider the unusual architectural features of the fortress. While many medieval fortresses are built with solid stone walls designed to withstand siege weapons and human attack, the Abuli Fortress stands out for its use of large, well-cut stones and its apparent alignment with celestial bodies. Some scholars have suggested that the fortress was designed with astronomical precision, perhaps as an observatory or a place of celestial worship? Could the fortress have been a place not just of defense, but of spiritual or cosmic significance? The alignment of the structure with the stars, if true, hints at a deeper knowledge of the heavens, a knowledge that may have been passed down through generations, and possibly even linked to other ancient cultures with similar practices. Such a theory raises another fascinating question. Was Abuli Fortress built to protect not just the physical realm, but something far more valuable, something intangible? Some fringe theories speculate that the fortress might have been designed to protect ancient knowledge that was believed to be held by an elite group of scholars or priests. Could this fortress, in fact, have served as a repository of forbidden or sacred knowledge, preserved through the ages by those who understood its significance? Could it have been designed to guard secrets, both physical and metaphysical, that were considered too powerful to fall into the wrong hands? The theories surrounding the purpose of the Abuli Fortress are further complicated by its mysterious abandonment. Unlike many ancient fortresses that are destroyed in battle or succumb to the ravages of time, Abuli Fortress was simply abandoned. By the 16th century, it appears to have been left to decay, its walls crumbling and its purpose forgotten. Some historians suggest that the fortress was abandoned due to changing political circumstances, possibly following the decline of the kingdom that built it. However, the suddenness of its abandonment raises a more intriguing question. Was it simply a strategic retreat, or was something more significant at play? Did the people who once occupied Abuli Fortress leave due to external pressures, or were there internal reasons for its sudden abandonment, reasons that have been lost to history? As we dig deeper into the archaeological records of the region, we discover that much about Abuli Fortress remains unexplored. Despite its imposing appearance and strategic importance, only limited excavation has been conducted at the site. What lies beneath the surface of the fortress? What artifacts, inscriptions, or hidden chambers might still be waiting to be discovered? Could there be untapped clues that might help us understand the true significance of this ancient structure? Adding to the mystery is the fortress's surrounding landscape. The rugged, isolated location of Abuli Fortress has kept it hidden from mainstream archaeological attention for centuries. Its near inaccessibility means that much of the surrounding area remains unexplored. Are there other, similarly obscure sites that could be connected to Abuli Fortress? Sites that might shed light on its creators, their beliefs, or their ultimate purpose? The isolation of the site suggests that it could be part of a larger, forgotten network of structures designed to protect, preserve, or even conceal certain knowledge or rituals. Could Abuli Fortress be just one piece in a much larger, unresolved puzzle of ancient history? There are also those who point to the possibility that the people who built Abuli Fortress may have had a far more advanced understanding of warfare, engineering, and even mysticism than we currently realize. Some fringe theorists even speculate that the fortress could have been built using lost technologies or techniques, methods that were known to the builders but have since been forgotten. Could this fortress represent not just a military stronghold, but the remnants of an ancient, highly sophisticated society whose knowledge has been deliberately erased or concealed? Was Abuli Fortress perhaps an outpost of a civilization whose secrets have been intentionally hidden from the world for reasons we have yet to understand? Despite the lack of definitive answers, the mystery of Abuli Fortress remains an intriguing one. Its towering presence in the Caucasus Mountains challenges us to consider what we know about the past and what we may still be missing. Why was this fortress built? And what did its creators intend to protect? What knowledge, if any, was hidden within its walls? The answers to these questions remain out of reach. But as we stand before the crumbling stones of Abuli Fortress, we are reminded that the past still holds many secrets, and that perhaps some of them are waiting to be uncovered. As we journey from the rugged mountains of Abuli Fortress, we find ourselves drawn to another enigmatic site, one that has long captured the imagination of historians, archaeologists, and even those with a keen sense of myth. The Maiden Castle, located in the rolling hills of southern England, is a site that challenges our understanding of ancient Britain. It stands, like a sentinel, overlooking the surrounding countryside, a vast and intricate fortification that remains one of the most impressive examples of Iron Age architecture in Europe. Maiden Castle's sheer scale is enough to take your breath away. The site covers approximately 47 acres, making it one of the largest hill forts in Europe. Its towering ramparts and deep ditches rise above the landscape, forming an almost impenetrable defense system. From a distance, the complex curves and contours of the earthwork look almost sculptural, as if the land itself has been shaped by hands that understood not only the physical world, but the deeper forces of nature. Approaching the site, the immense scale becomes even more apparent, and the first question that strikes you is this: who could have conceived of such an ambitious and elaborate structure, and why? The fortifications of Maiden Castle are stunning in their complexity. The earthworks consist of multiple concentric rings of defensive walls, some of which rise over 10 meters high. Inside the walls, there are remains of buildings, storage pits, and other artifacts, indicating that this was once a thriving, populous settlement. Evidence suggests that the site was continuously inhabited from at least 600 BC, reaching its peak around 300 BC, before it was eventually abandoned by the end of the Roman conquest in the 1st century AD. What makes Maiden Castle particularly intriguing is not only its size, but also its strategic location. Perched atop a high hill, the fort commands a sweeping view of the surrounding area, allowing its inhabitants to monitor the landscape for miles in every direction. The natural defenses of the hill are enhanced by the construction of sophisticated earthworks and ditches, creating a formidable barrier against any would-be attackers. The very position of Maiden Castle suggests that it was designed with both visibility and defense in mind, a place where the people could see all that lay before them, but also keep their enemies at bay. Yet, despite its impressive defenses and strategic significance, the true purpose of Maiden Castle remains elusive. Mainstream scholars often describe it as a military stronghold, a place where ancient tribes could rally their forces and defend against external threats. Indeed, evidence of violent conflict, such as burned buildings and the remains of human remains showing signs of trauma, supports this idea. However, there are other, more subtle aspects of the site that suggest a more complex, multifaceted purpose. Could Maiden Castle have been more than just a military stronghold? Some theorists suggest that it may have also functioned as a religious center or ritual site. The massive scale of the earthworks, the intricate layout of the fortifications, and the carefully planned interior space all point to a society that was highly organized, perhaps with a deep spiritual or ceremonial life. Some have even proposed that the layout of Maiden Castle may have symbolic meaning, perhaps tied to the movements of the sun, moon, or stars, as many ancient cultures embedded astronomical knowledge into their architecture. It is not hard to imagine that Maiden Castle, with its commanding views and monumental structures, could have served as a place of power, both spiritual and political. The sheer effort involved in its construction suggests that the people who built it saw the site as something more than a mere fort. It was, perhaps, a sacred space, a place where the forces of nature and the divine were invoked and honored. In a world where the boundary between the sacred and the mundane was often blurred, could Maiden Castle have been a focal point for both the defense of the tribe and the maintenance of cosmic order? Another curious element of Maiden Castle's history is its eventual abandonment. Unlike many ancient fortresses, which were often destroyed in battle or through the ravages of time, Maiden Castle's decline appears to have been more gradual. Archaeological evidence suggests that, by the time the Romans arrived in Britain, the fort was already in decline. The structures within the walls were falling into disrepair, and the population had dwindled. Was this the result of external pressures, such as invasions or raids, or was there a more internal, societal shift at play? Some suggest that the shift in power dynamics between native Britons and the Romans led to the abandonment of Maiden Castle. Perhaps the people of the area moved away, seeking new opportunities under Roman rule. However, the absence of a clear reason for Maiden Castle's abandonment only deepens the mystery. Could it be that the people who once inhabited this monumental site had an entirely different understanding of power, community, and the land itself? Perhaps, as some fringe theorists suggest, Maiden Castle was abandoned not out of necessity, but as part of a ritualized retreat, a kind of spiritual decision to leave behind the old ways and move toward a new phase of existence. If this was the case, what could have driven the people of Maiden Castle to abandon such a grand and powerful center? Was it a loss of faith in their rulers, a shift in religious belief, or perhaps a broader societal transformation? The archaeological evidence from Maiden Castle also suggests that its inhabitants were far from isolated. Trade and cultural exchange seem to have been important aspects of life here. Artifacts from distant lands, including pottery, tools, and metalwork, have been uncovered, showing that the people of Maiden Castle were not just defensive warriors, but also active participants in the wider network of ancient Britain. The fort's role in trade and communication is clear, but it leaves us wondering, how far did the influence of Maiden Castle reach? Could the fort have been a place where leaders and traders from across the British Isles and beyond gathered, sharing not just goods but ideas and beliefs? Was this remote hill fort, in fact, a cultural crossroads, a place where traditions were exchanged and new practices were born? Even more speculative ideas have arisen regarding the connection between Maiden Castle and other ancient sites across Europe. The complexity of its design, the astronomical alignment suggested by its layout, and its apparent symbolic significance all point to the possibility that it could be part of a broader network of ritual and defensive sites stretching across the landscape. Could Maiden Castle have been a link in an ancient chain of fortified sites designed to protect sacred knowledge, or to maintain control over spiritual and cosmic forces? Were these sites connected in a way that we still don't fully understand? As we stand on the hilltop of Maiden Castle, looking out over the vast expanse of the surrounding landscape, the silence of the site offers little in terms of answers. Instead, it invites more questions. What was the true purpose of Maiden Castle? Was it a fortress, a ceremonial center, or both? And why was it abandoned so suddenly, leaving behind only the ghostly outlines of its once mighty walls? The mystery of Maiden Castle is a testament to the complexity and depth of ancient British society, a society that, despite its advancements, remains as mysterious as the very earthworks that still stand today. What truths might still lie hidden beneath the soil of Maiden Castle, waiting for us to uncover? From the rolling hills of Maiden Castle, we now find ourselves journeying across the sea to the rugged and windswept cliffs of the Aran Islands off the western coast of Ireland. Here, atop a vast precipice overlooking the tumultuous Atlantic Ocean, lies one of the most enigmatic ancient sites in the British Isles, Dùn Aonghasa. The name itself evokes a sense of mystery. Dùn, meaning fort in Gaelic, and Aonghasa, likely referring to a long-forgotten king or figure of local legend. Yet, as we stand at the edge of this breathtaking site, one question arises. What purpose did this incredible structure serve? And why was it built in such an isolated, dramatic location? Dùn Aonghasa is an imposing prehistoric fort perched on a sheer cliff face that drops nearly 100 meters into the sea below. The fort's position on the edge of the island gives it a commanding view of the surrounding waters, and from here, it's easy to understand why this site was chosen for construction. Its stone walls, now weathered by centuries of salt air and wind, create a near impenetrable defense. The outer walls curve with the natural contours of the landscape, and within the fort's interior, a series of stone buildings and structures stand as silent witnesses to a civilization that once thrived here. The fort itself is a feat of ancient engineering. Its stone walls, still standing in places up to 4 meters high, are built with remarkable precision, the stones carefully interlocked without mortar, a technique that speaks to the skill and craftsmanship of its builders. These walls encircle a large open space at the center of the fort, and it is believed that within this space, important ritual or social activities may have taken place. Archaeological finds from the site include remnants of buildings, tools, and pottery, suggesting that this was not just a military stronghold, but a vibrant center of activity for its people. But as we examine Dùn Aonghasa's history, we are confronted with the deeper mystery of why such an elaborate structure was built in such a seemingly impractical location. The fort's remote position, high on a cliff and isolated from the nearest settlements, suggests that its builders were not just concerned with defense. The site itself is located on Inishmore, the largest of the Aran Islands, an area with a long and rich history of settlement, but one that was far from the centers of political or military power in ancient Ireland. Why, then, would the builders choose to erect such a massive, fortified structure in such a remote, exposed location? Mainstream historical interpretations suggest that Dùn Aonghasa was likely a stronghold for a tribal society, perhaps a center for a local ruler or chieftain. The fort's impressive defenses, combined with its strategic position on the cliff, point to the possibility that it was meant to protect its inhabitants from potential invaders, or perhaps to control access to the surrounding land and waters. Its location may have also provided a sense of isolation and autonomy for its rulers, who could survey both the sea and the land for miles, offering them control over trade routes and maritime passageways. But as we delve deeper into the mysteries surrounding Dùn Aonghasa, we begin to uncover elements that challenge these more conventional explanations. The fort's design is not purely functional. It also seems to incorporate symbolic elements, suggesting that its purpose may have gone beyond mere military defense. For example, the circular shape of the walls, which enclose the fort in a manner that harmonizes with the natural contours of the land, hints at a deeper connection to the earth itself. Was Dùn Aonghasa simply a fortified military post, or did its shape and layout reflect a more spiritual or ceremonial function? Some scholars have pointed to the alignment of certain features of the fort with the solstices and equinoxes, suggesting that the fort may have had astronomical or ritual significance. Could the builders of Dùn Aonghasa have had a sophisticated understanding of the heavens, using the site as a kind of observatory to track celestial events? If so, what might this reveal about the people who lived here and their understanding of time, space, and their place in the world? As we consider these possibilities, another layer of mystery emerges. While the fort is believed to have been occupied during the Iron Age, there are also suggestions that it may have been built even earlier, possibly during the Bronze Age. This opens the door to more speculative theories about the site's origins and purpose. Could Dùn Aonghasa have been a much older site, perhaps originally built by a pre-Celtic society with a completely different worldview and belief system? And if so, what knowledge or traditions might have been passed down through the generations, influencing the construction and use of the site? More intriguing still is the question of whether Dùn Aonghasa was part of a larger network of fortifications or ceremonial sites across the Aran Islands, or even the wider Irish landscape. Some researchers have suggested that the Aran Islands themselves could have been a kind of spiritual or ceremonial center during the Iron Age, a place where important rites and rituals were performed. Could Dùn Aonghasa have been one of many such sites, scattered across the island, designed to align with the natural features of the landscape and the movements of celestial bodies? Was it part of a larger system of sacred sites, connected not only by geography, but also by spiritual and ritual practices? Adding to the mystery is the fact that there are no definitive records of who exactly built Dùn Aonghasa or why it was abandoned. While it is clear that the fort was used for centuries, there is little evidence to suggest when or why it was ultimately abandoned. Unlike other ancient forts that show signs of violent destruction or conquest, Dùn Aonghasa's decline appears to have been more gradual. Its walls remain intact, but its buildings were left to crumble. Was the fort abandoned due to external pressures, such as invasions or environmental changes, or did the people who lived here simply choose to leave, perhaps in search of a new way of life or a new place to call home? Some fringe theories suggest that the abandonment of Dùn Aonghasa may have been tied to a more mystical or spiritual shift, a decision to leave behind the old ways in favor of new beliefs or practices. Could the site have had a sacred function, and its abandonment be related to a broader change in religious or cosmic understanding? Perhaps the people of Dùn Aonghasa no longer saw the fort as a place of power, but rather as a symbol of something they had outgrown, a connection to the past that no longer served them in the way it once did. As we stand at the edge of the cliffs, looking out over the endless expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, the silence of Dùn Aonghasa seems to hold many untold stories. Who were the people who built this fort, and what did it mean to them? What was its true purpose? Was it a military outpost, a ceremonial center, or something entirely different, something we have yet to comprehend? Dùn Aonghasa remains one of the most mysterious and awe-inspiring sights of ancient Ireland. Its monumental walls, perched on the precipice of a vast ocean, challenge us to think about the past in new ways. What knowledge, what power might have been contained within these walls, and what secrets are still waiting to be uncovered? As we leave the dramatic cliffs of Dùn Aonghasa behind, our journey takes us further into the misty heart of ancient Europe, to a place that stands as one of the oldest and most enigmatic monuments on the continent, Newgrange. Situated in the Boyne Valley in Ireland, this prehistoric structure is a sprawling mound of earth and stone, rising mysteriously from the landscape like an ancient sentinel, guarding secrets that have long eluded us. Newgrange is often described as a passage tomb, but that label only begins to scratch the surface of its true significance. The monument itself is a massive circular mound, about 80 meters in diameter and 13 meters high, constructed from large stones that were hauled from distant quarries. A grand entrance, flanked by carefully carved stones, leads into a narrow passage that extends 19 meters into the heart of the mound. At the end of this passage lies a small chamber, where the remains of the dead were likely placed. The structure's sheer size and complexity suggest that it was no mere burial site, but rather a center of great importance to the people who built it. The most striking feature of Newgrange, however, is its alignment with the rising sun on the winter solstice. Each year, at dawn on December 21st, the sunlight pours through a carefully constructed roof box above the entrance and illuminates the inner chamber. This precise alignment with the solar cycle is a testament to the advanced understanding of astronomy possessed by the builders of Newgrange, an understanding that was likely tied to their spiritual and cultural beliefs. The fact that this event occurs over 5,000 years later, on the same day, speaks to the extraordinary precision of the ancient engineers who constructed the site. This alignment with the solstice raises several fascinating questions. Why was Newgrange built with such an exacting connection to the solar calendar? What did the people who constructed this monument believe about the sun, the seasons, and the passage of time? Was it a symbol of rebirth, marking the return of the sun after the darkest days of winter? Or did it represent something even deeper, a connection between the heavens and the earth, between life and death? The mainstream explanation is that Newgrange served as a place of burial and ritual, linked to the agricultural cycle and the worship of the sun. The people of the Neolithic period, living at a time when they were still heavily reliant on farming, would have seen the solstice as a critical moment in the cycle of the seasons. For them, the sun's return at the winter solstice would have been a sign of hope, of light returning to a world that had been engulfed in darkness. The monument may have been designed to honor the sun, to ensure the prosperity of the coming harvest, and to facilitate the journey of the dead into the afterlife. Yet, as we explore Newgrange more deeply, we begin to encounter elements that challenge this conventional explanation. While it is true that Newgrange's alignment with the solstice is undeniable, there are other features of the site that seem to suggest its purpose was more complex than merely marking the seasons. The elaborate carvings found on many of the stones at Newgrange, for instance, are unlike anything else in Neolithic Europe. These intricate geometric patterns, spirals, chevrons, and zigzags, appear to have a symbolic or ritualistic meaning, though we have yet to fully decipher their significance. Were these carvings simply decorative, or did they hold a deeper, more mystical purpose? Could they have been tied to the cosmological beliefs of the people who built the site, acting as a kind of language that communicated ideas beyond the ordinary? Moreover, the precise engineering required to construct Newgrange is still a subject of fascination. How did the builders of Newgrange, who lacked the advanced tools and technology of later civilizations, manage to create such a massive structure with such exacting accuracy? The stones used in the construction were carefully chosen, shaped, and transported across vast distances, and the layout of the monument was planned with a level of sophistication that suggests a deep knowledge of geometry, astronomy, and engineering. It is a remarkable feat, especially considering that Newgrange predates the pyramids of Egypt by over a millennium. This has led some to speculate that the builders of Newgrange might have had access to knowledge or techniques that we have yet to fully understand. Were they guided by a hidden tradition of ancient wisdom, passed down through generations, that connected them to the forces of nature in ways we can only begin to imagine? Did they possess an understanding of the stars, the sun, and the earth that went beyond mere observation, perhaps even aligning the structure with unseen forces or energies that we cannot yet perceive? Further adding to the mystery is the question of who exactly built Newgrange. The site is traditionally attributed to the ancient Irish people, but evidence of similar monuments found across Europe suggests that the builders of Newgrange may have been part of a much broader, interconnected network of prehistoric cultures. Were the builders of Newgrange part of a larger spiritual or cultural movement that spanned vast distances, connecting different societies through shared beliefs and practices? Could Newgrange have been part of a sacred landscape, with other monuments in the region aligned in a deliberate pattern designed to mark celestial events, or perhaps even to channel energy from the earth itself? Some fringe theories have taken this idea further, suggesting that the ancient builders of Newgrange may have had a more profound, mystical knowledge that was connected to lost civilizations or ancient extraterrestrial visitors. These ideas are, of course, speculative, but they raise a thought-provoking question. Could the advanced knowledge required to build such a site have come from sources beyond what we understand as human civilization? As we consider these theories, we are left with an intriguing paradox. Newgrange is undeniably an ancient site, built by a people who possessed a remarkable understanding of astronomy and geometry, yet the full purpose of the site, and the full extent of the knowledge that went into its construction, remains elusive. Was it simply a monument to honor the sun, a way of marking the passage of time, or did it serve a deeper, more enigmatic purpose that we are only beginning to unravel? Standing before Newgrange, with its massive stones and its connection to the sky, one cannot help but wonder what still remains hidden beneath the surface. What secrets are embedded in the carvings on the stones, in the alignment of the passage, in the very structure of the mound itself? As the sunlight spills into the chamber on the winter solstice, we are reminded that the mysteries of Newgrange are far from solved. Perhaps, in time, the full story of this ancient monument will be revealed, but until then, the questions remain, urging us to look deeper, to seek the knowledge that is still locked within the stones of Newgrange. As we move from the shadow of Newgrange, our journey takes us to the sun-drenched hills of ancient Greece, where another mystery awaits. In the northeastern corner of the Peloponnese lies the ancient city of Tiryns, a site so impressive that its very name still echoes in the stories of the ancient world. Known for its colossal walls, intricate architecture, and its central role in Mycenaean civilization, Tiryns stands as a monument to a people whose history remains as shrouded in myth as it is in fact. Tiryns is a place where history and legend intertwine. The site itself is set on a low hill that overlooks the fertile plains below, and its strategic location, near the ancient city of Argos, gives it a commanding view of the surrounding landscape. As we approach the ruins, the most striking feature that greets us are the massive, almost impossibly large stone walls that have withstood the ravages of time for over 3 millennia. These walls, which still rise to impressive heights in some places, are built using an architectural technique known as Cyclopean masonry. The stones, some weighing as much as 20 tons, are so large that later generations of people believed that only the mythical Cyclopes, giant one-eyed creatures of Greek myth, could have built them. It's an image that continues to capture the imagination of those who visit the site, but also a question. How did the Mycenaeans, with their relatively simple tools, manage to move and fit stones of such extraordinary size? The walls of Tiryns are not just monumental, they are a testament to the engineering prowess of the Mycenaeans, a civilization that flourished around 1400 BC to 1200 BC. Inside these walls lie the remains of what was once a powerful and highly organized city. The site includes the ruins of large palaces, storerooms, and even a well-planned water supply system. The most remarkable structure within Tiryns is the palace complex itself, a sprawling arrangement of rooms, courtyards, and halls, believed to have been the residence of a Mycenaean king. The layout of the palace suggests a society that was not only sophisticated in terms of its architecture but also in its understanding of space, organization, and urban planning. Yet, while the site of Tiryns is impressive, it is also filled with enigmas. The question of who built these walls, how they managed such feats of engineering, and why they chose this particular location remains open to speculation. Mainstream historians and archaeologists attribute the city's construction to the Mycenaeans, who are known to have dominated much of the Aegean world during the Late Bronze Age. But the sheer scale of the walls, along with their near-perfect alignment, suggests a level of expertise that goes beyond simple construction techniques. Could there have been knowledge or methods lost to history, or perhaps forgotten by the people who came after the Mycenaeans? The theory that the walls were built by the Cyclopes, while mythological, also reflects the awe with which ancient people regarded these structures. Was the construction of Tiryns, and similar sites like Mycenae and the Palace of Knossos, an expression of a lost knowledge passed down through ancient civilizations that may have understood the earth, materials, and forces of nature in ways we can only begin to understand? Some fringe theories speculate that the builders of Tiryns might have had access to advanced technology, possibly even tools or methods that were lost after the collapse of the Bronze Age civilizations. These theories remain speculative, of course, but the fact that the walls still stand, imposing and indomitable, invites these kinds of questions. Adding to the mystery is the fact that Tiryns, like many ancient sites, appears to have been abandoned after its peak. Though the city flourished for several centuries, by the time of the Greek Dark Ages, around the 12th century BC, the walls were no longer a symbol of power, but a relic of a bygone era. What caused this decline? Was it the pressures of invasions, internal strife, or something else entirely? There is evidence of destruction at Tiryns, but unlike many other ancient cities that show clear signs of violent conquest, the reasons for Tiryns' decline remain uncertain. Could it have been the result of a natural disaster, or was the city abandoned for more internal, possibly spiritual reasons? Some have suggested that the collapse of the Mycenaean civilization as a whole, marked by the sudden disappearance of many major cities, could have played a role in the abandonment of Tiryns. Theories surrounding the collapse of the Bronze Age civilizations often point to a combination of factors: invasions by the Sea Peoples, climate change, internal warfare, and even shifts in trade routes. Yet, even with all this evidence, no one can say with certainty why a civilization that once thrived so vibrantly could simply vanish. Further complicating the story of Tiryns is the archaeological evidence of a complex network of trade, art, and cultural exchange. The Mycenaeans, known for their extensive trade with Egypt, the Near East, and other parts of the Mediterranean, were not isolated, but deeply enmeshed in a web of influence and ideas. At Tiryns, archaeologists have uncovered artifacts from far-flung regions, pottery from Cyprus, jewelry from Egypt, and even writing systems that suggest a contact with cultures outside of the Aegean. This network of trade and communication raises a tantalizing question. Did the knowledge and power of Tiryns and its neighboring Mycenaean cities extend beyond mere local dominance? Were these cities part of a greater, interconnected civilization, the true nature of which is now lost to time? The legacy of Tiryns and the other Mycenaean cities is one of grandeur and mystery. The walls, the palaces, the craftsmanship, all point to a civilization of remarkable achievement. But with those achievements come questions. How did they build such massive structures? What technologies did they possess that allowed them to achieve such feats of engineering? Why did Tiryns and other Mycenaean cities fall into decline so suddenly and mysteriously? Were there hidden forces at play, both natural and societal, that we have yet to understand? As we stand amidst the ruins of Tiryns, gazing at the immense cyclopean walls, we are reminded that the past, for all its grandeur, still holds many secrets. The answers to the questions surrounding this ancient city remain elusive, buried beneath layers of stone and time. Were the Mycenaeans truly the brilliant builders we believe them to be, or is there a deeper, more mysterious story still waiting to be uncovered? As with so many other ancient sites, the mystery of Tiryns invites us to look deeper, to seek out knowledge that may yet lie hidden beneath the surface, waiting for us to uncover. What, if anything, might still be concealed in the stones of Tiryns, and what can we learn from the civilization that built it? The questions remain, and the answers, perhaps, are still out there, waiting to be discovered. Leaving the ancient walls of Tiryns behind, we now turn our attention to the quiet, rural landscape of southern England, where another mystery beckons from the depths of prehistory. Nestled in the rolling hills near Avebury, one of the largest prehistoric stone circles in the world, lies the West Kennet Long Barrow, a burial mound that, much like the structures we've seen before, holds within it a history that is at once both mysterious and awe-inspiring. The West Kennet Long Barrow is an imposing structure, built around 3,650 BC, predating both the Great Pyramids of Egypt and Stonehenge. This Neolithic tomb, a mound of earth and stone, stretches some 40 meters in length, and its structure consists of a series of large, flat stones that form the sides and roof of the barrow. The entrance to the barrow is marked by a set of large standing stones, which seem to gaze out into the surrounding countryside, as if watching over the sacred space within. The barrow itself, aligned with the rising sun at certain times of the year, speaks to an advanced understanding of both astronomy and spiritual symbolism, hinting at a culture deeply connected to the cycles of nature. But while West Kennet Long Barrow's physical structure is impressive, it is the mysteries contained within, and the rituals it likely served, that continue to intrigue archaeologists and historians alike. As you approach the barrow, the sense of ancient presence is palpable. The air feels thick with the weight of time. Inside, the dark, narrow chamber contains the remains of dozens of people, some of whom were likely buried here as part of long-forgotten rites. The bones, some of them carefully arranged, others scattered, provide a glimpse into the burial practices of a people whose spiritual and cultural beliefs remain as elusive as the passage of time itself. The construction of the barrow was a monumental undertaking. It would have required a significant labor force to transport the heavy stones and construct the passage and chambers. This suggests that the people who built the Long Barrow had a complex, organized society capable of coordinating large-scale efforts. Yet, even with such organized labor, questions arise. Why such an elaborate and permanent burial place for the dead? The sheer scale and precision of West Kennet Long Barrow imply that it was not merely a place of internment, but a sacred site tied to deeper, perhaps cosmological beliefs. Could it have been a site where the passage between life and death, the earthly and the divine, was ritualistically marked? One of the most fascinating aspects of the barrow is its alignment with celestial events. The entrance to the chamber is positioned in such a way that it aligns with the winter solstice sunrise, a clear indication that the builders had an advanced understanding of the cycles of the sun and its relationship to the seasons. The light from the rising sun would have illuminated the interior chamber during the winter solstice, bathing the remains of the deceased in the first light of the new season. This connection to the sun suggests that the barrow had a significant spiritual function, possibly as a place where the dead were believed to be reborn, or where their journey into the afterlife was symbolically marked by the return of light. Yet, while this alignment with the sun provides us with some clues about the spiritual practices of the people who constructed West Kennet Long Barrow, many questions remain unanswered. For example, why was the barrow so carefully designed? Was it intended as a simple burial site, or did it also serve as a center for ritual activity? Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of feasting and other ceremonial practices in the area surrounding the barrow, which raises the possibility that it was a site for community gatherings, not just for funerary rites. Were these gatherings tied to the changing of the seasons, to the movement of the sun, or to more esoteric beliefs about the cosmos? What did the people of this time believe about death and the afterlife? And why did they choose to build such a monumental tomb for their dead, when simpler burial practices might have sufficed? Some theories suggest that West Kennet Long Barrow may have been a family tomb of sorts, a place where the ancestors of a particular group were interred and honored over generations. The careful arrangement of the bones, some of which were placed in distinct clusters, seems to suggest a level of reverence and careful ritual. The very construction of the tomb, with its long passageway and multiple chambers, implies a belief in the continuity of life beyond death, in a spiritual journey that required careful preparation and respect. However, other theories venture further into the realm of speculation, suggesting that West Kennet Long Barrow may have had a wider purpose, one that transcended individual burial practices. Some have proposed that it was a site for ancestor worship, where the dead were venerated not only for their role in the family, but as embodiments of powerful, divine forces. Others suggest that the Long Barrow may have been a ritual site used by an ancient priesthood or spiritual elite, who had access to sacred knowledge about the cycles of nature, the stars, and the forces that governed the world. Could this ancient site have been more than just a tomb? Could it have been a place where the living communicated with the dead, or where the boundaries between the two worlds were deliberately blurred? The role of West Kennet Long Barrow in the broader context of Neolithic religious practices also remains a subject of intrigue. While we know that the barrow was part of a wider network of Neolithic monuments, including the nearby Avebury stone circle, the exact connections between these sites are still unclear. Was West Kennet Long Barrow a sacred center that tied together the spiritual beliefs of the surrounding communities, a place where people gathered for rituals, ceremonies, or festivals tied to the sun, the moon, and the changing seasons? Or was it simply one of many burial sites constructed during the Neolithic period, reflecting a wider trend of elaborate tomb building across ancient Britain and Europe? Adding to the mystery of the Long Barrow are the many unanswered questions about its eventual abandonment and the subsequent burial practices of the people who once used it. After being actively used for several centuries, West Kennet Long Barrow was sealed, and its exact purpose seems to have been forgotten by later generations. Was the site abandoned because of a shift in religious beliefs or practices? Was there a larger societal change that led to the decline of such monumental tomb building? Could it be that the knowledge that once imbued the Long Barrow with such spiritual significance was lost, leaving only the physical structure behind as a silent testament to a once thriving culture? West Kennet Long Barrow continues to captivate the imagination, not just because of its architectural grandeur, but because of the profound mystery it presents. The questions it raises about ancient belief systems, burial practices, and the connection between life, death, and the cosmos are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. What did the people who built this site believe about the universe, and what can we learn from their monuments? Is there more to this place than we have yet uncovered? What ancient knowledge might still lie buried within its stone chambers, waiting to reveal itself to those who are willing to look deeper? As we stand before this ancient monument, with the winter solstice sun slowly rising over the horizon, we are reminded that the mysteries of the past, much like the light of the sun itself, still have the power to illuminate the darkest corners of our understanding. As we leave the solemn space of West Kennet Long Barrow, we now turn our gaze northward, across the misty hills of Scotland, where another enigmatic ancient site beckons, the Clava Cairns. Hidden among the soft, wind-swept moors of the Scottish Highlands, near the village of Inverness, these prehistoric burial mounds and stone structures hold a profound sense of mystery that has captivated researchers, historians, and spiritual seekers for centuries. Much like other ancient sites, Clava Cairns is a place where the line between the known and the unknown blurs, where the earth itself seems to hold secrets waiting to be unearthed. The Clava Cairns consist of a series of large circular burial mounds, some of which are surrounded by standing stones, forming a delicate but powerful connection between the dead, the living, and the natural world. The cairns, or burial mounds, are part of a larger prehistoric site that dates back to around 2000 BC during the Bronze Age. Each cairn is typically composed of a central chamber surrounded by a ring of stones, with a passageway that leads to the inner sanctum. The site's layout hints at an intricate understanding of both astronomy and ritual, as though the people who constructed these tombs had a deeper knowledge of the cosmos than we have traditionally credited them with. Standing at the site, the first thing you notice is the silence, the stillness of the place. The stones, weathered by millennia of wind, rain, and time, stand like silent sentinels, guarding the memories of those who were once interred here. The cairns are not merely random heaps of stone, but rather meticulously constructed structures designed with clear intention. The placement of the stones, the alignment of the chambers, and the way the light enters the burial chambers during certain times of the year, all suggest a profound connection between the structure and the natural world. The people who built Clava Cairns were not only concerned with the physical world, but also with the spiritual realm, creating a space where life and death coexisted in a symbolic and tangible way. One of the most compelling aspects of Clava Cairns is the alignment of the burial chambers with the solstices. Like Newgrange in Ireland, which we explored earlier, the cairns are thought to have been designed to align with specific astronomical events. During the winter solstice, light pours into the central chambers of the cairns, illuminating the resting places of the dead. This celestial alignment hints at a deep spiritual significance, one that suggests the people who built these structures may have believed that the solstices were powerful times of renewal or transformation. Perhaps the return of the sun at the darkest time of the year symbolized a rebirth, the start of a new cycle of life. Was this a way for the living to connect with the deceased? Could the solstice alignments have been intended to ensure that the spirits of the dead would be nourished by the sun's light as it returned to the earth? Mainstream interpretations of Clava Cairns suggest that they were part of a broader burial and ritual complex used by the ancient people of this region. The cairns themselves are thought to have served as tombs for the elite, with the stone circles and alignments symbolizing a connection between the living and the gods. The people who built these monuments were likely part of a society that valued both the practical and the spiritual aspects of life, with an intricate understanding of the cycles of nature that informed their religious practices. Yet, as with many other ancient sites, there are aspects of Clava Cairns that resist simple explanation. While the solstice alignment is a compelling clue, there are still many unanswered questions. The burial practices themselves are unusual. In some cases, the bodies placed within the cairns were cremated and then buried in urns, a custom that was not universal across other burial sites of the time. The presence of ritual objects and the careful placement of the dead suggest a belief in an afterlife or a continuation of the soul's journey after death. But what were these people's spiritual beliefs, and how did they understand their place in the cosmos? Some have speculated that the Clava Cairns may have served as more than just tombs. Could they have been centers of ritual and pilgrimage? Was Clava a sacred site where people from surrounding communities came to honor the dead, to seek guidance from ancestors, or to connect with the natural world? Given the prominence of the cairns and their connection to the cycles of the sun, could these stones have been a kind of cosmic map, guiding the living on a spiritual journey as much as a physical one? Even more intriguing are the potential connections between the Clava Cairns and other ancient monuments across Europe. Some researchers have pointed to similarities between Clava Cairns and the great burial mounds of Scandinavia, as well as sites like Stonehenge and Avebury in England. These sites, though separated by vast distances and different cultures, share similar architectural features and alignments with celestial events. Could the builders of Clava Cairns have been part of a larger interconnected cultural or religious tradition, one that spanned across the northern reaches of Europe? Was there a shared knowledge of the stars, the sun, and the earth that linked these diverse cultures together? And if so, what does that tell us about the nature of belief and ritual in the ancient world? Beyond the theories of cultural exchange, there are those who propose that Clava Cairns could have served purposes we have yet to fully understand. Some fringe theories suggest that the cairns might have been part of a larger spiritual or ritual landscape, one that was connected not just to the afterlife, but to forces beyond the natural world. Could the cairns, with their strange alignments and symbolic carvings, have been used to communicate with otherworldly entities or to channel cosmic energies? Perhaps they weren't just tombs, but points of contact between this world and the next, places where the boundaries between the living and the dead, the natural and the supernatural, were blurred. As we look closer at the carvings and inscriptions on the stones of Clava Cairns, we find yet another layer of mystery. Some of the stones bear strange markings, symbols that have not been fully deciphered and whose meanings remain elusive. Are these simply decorative patterns, or do they hold the key to understanding the spiritual practices of the people who built the cairns? Could these markings represent a language of symbols, an ancient form of communication with the divine, or even a system of knowledge lost to time? The mystery of Clava Cairns continues to captivate our imagination, not just because of the site's age or its monumental nature, but because of the unanswered questions that continue to linger. What did the people who built these cairns believe about death and the afterlife? How did they understand their relationship with the sun, the stars, and the earth? Was Clava Cairns a simple burial site, or was it a place of spiritual power and cosmic significance? Standing before these ancient stones, the past feels closer than ever, yet still so distant. The cairns have witnessed thousands of years of change, but their secrets remain. Perhaps, like so many other ancient mysteries, the answers are locked within the stones themselves, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Until then, the questions persist, urging us to look deeper, to explore further, and to wonder what might still lie hidden beneath the surface of time. As we leave the windswept moors of Clava Cairns behind, Our journey continues across the ancient landscape of Europe, where another hauntingly mysterious monument awaits. Tucked away in the forests of Brittany, France, lies one of the most impressive and enigmatic megalithic structures of the Neolithic era, the Dolmen de la Roche-aux-Fées, or the Fairy Rock. This massive stone structure, shrouded in both history and myth, continues to challenge our understanding of the ancient world. The Dolmen de la Roche-aux-Fées stands as a monumental testament to the skill and spiritual practices of the people who built it. Its name, Fairy Rock, evokes the rich folklore of the region, where the dolmen is said to have been created by fairies or other mystical beings. Whether this myth holds any truth or not, it adds an element of wonder to an already remarkable site. The dolmen itself is a large burial chamber, constructed from massive stone slabs that form a roofed rectangular chamber, which is then surrounded by a cairn, an artificial mound made of smaller stones. The entire structure measures about 20 meters in length, with stones so large that it is difficult to imagine how they were transported and set into place without the advanced machinery of later civilizations. What makes the Dolmen de la Roche-aux-Fées particularly striking is not just its size or its isolation in the dense forest, but the precision with which it was constructed. The alignment of the dolmen, like so many other megalithic sites, is particularly intriguing. It faces in the direction of the rising sun during certain times of the year, suggesting that the builders possessed an advanced understanding of astronomy and the cycles of the sun. Given the location of the dolmen and the careful placement of its stones, it is highly likely that it was not simply a burial site, but also a ceremonial space tied to specific cosmic events. Could the builders have used the dolmen to track the movements of the sun, the moon, or even the stars? And what might these celestial alignments have meant for the ancient people who constructed it? The Dolmen de la Roche-aux-Fées, like many ancient megalithic structures, serves as a powerful reminder that we are only beginning to scratch the surface of ancient knowledge and practices. While it is widely accepted that the dolmen was used as a burial chamber, its exact function remains open to interpretation. The stones that make up the dolmen are not only large and impressive, but were also carefully chosen, shaped, and arranged to create a space that was likely intended for ritualistic purposes. Was it merely a tomb, or did it serve as a space for spiritual practices, marking the passage of time, or even connecting the living with the supernatural world? The idea of the dolmen as a cosmic or spiritual gateway, perhaps linking the realms of the living and the dead, is one that is suggested by many scholars, but it remains speculative. Another fascinating aspect of the dolmen is the question of its construction. The sheer scale of the stones raises immediate questions. How did the people of the Neolithic era, with their rudimentary tools and limited technology, manage to move and position such enormous stones? The stones used in the construction of the dolmen are made of local granite, yet they are so large, some weighing up to 30 tons, that the methods by which they were transported and erected continue to elude archaeologists. Were simple sledges and ropes enough to carry these stones to the site, or did the builders use techniques we have yet to fully understand? Some have even speculated that the builders of the dolmen might have had access to knowledge or tools lost to history, suggesting that the precision and scale of the structure reflect an advanced understanding of engineering and architecture far beyond what we typically associate with the Neolithic period. The myths surrounding the dolmen add yet another layer of intrigue to this already fascinating site. According to local legend, the stones of the dolmen were placed by fairies, who were believed to be capable of moving such massive stones with ease. This folklore, though clearly symbolic, speaks to the enduring power of the dolmen as a site of mystery and wonder. Could the legends surrounding the dolmen hold a grain of truth? Is it possible that the builders of this megalithic structure had access to esoteric knowledge or mystical powers that have been lost to time? Or, as some suggest, Were these ancient people simply able to achieve feats that modern archaeologists have yet to explain? As we delve deeper into the possible reasons for constructing such a site, one question that often arises is, why were these massive monuments, like the Dolmen de la Roche-aux-Fées, constructed at all? While many megalithic structures are linked to funerary practices, the size, scale, and alignment of the dolmen suggest that it may have served a more complex and multifaceted purpose. Was it merely a tomb, or did it function as a place of communal gathering, a ritual space, or even a site for astronomical observation? In some ways, the dolmen might have served as a microcosm of the ancient worldview, a place where the cycles of life, death, and the cosmos were intertwined, offering both spiritual guidance and a physical space for ceremonies. The fact that the dolmen aligns with celestial events raises another intriguing possibility. Could the structure have been used to mark the passage of time or the changing seasons? Its connection to the sun's movements suggests that the builders may have had a sophisticated understanding of the natural world, using the dolmen as a tool to track the sun's position and align it with significant events such as solstices or equinoxes. If this is the case, then the dolmen would not simply have been a burial site, but a tool for understanding the larger rhythms of the universe, used to guide the people's agricultural, ceremonial, and spiritual practices. Adding another layer of mystery is the fact that the dolmen is isolated in a dense forest. While there are other megalithic structures in Brittany, few are as remote and hidden from view as the Dolmen de la Roche-aux-Fées. Why was it built in such a secluded location? Could it have been intended as a secret or sacred site, accessible only to those with the knowledge of its existence? Some have proposed that the dolmen might have been a site of initiation, known only to a select group of people who had been entrusted with the sacred knowledge associated with the structure. As we stand before the Dolmen de la Roche-aux-Fées, the sense of mystery deepens. The massive stones, placed so carefully, still bear the weight of centuries of human history, yet they remain silent, unwilling to reveal all their secrets. Was this monument a simple burial chamber, or did it serve a higher, more complex purpose? Was it a tool for tracking the stars, a site for spiritual rituals, or a place where the living sought to communicate with the dead? Could there be deeper knowledge locked within the stones, waiting to be rediscovered? The questions linger, urging us to look deeper into the past and consider the mysteries of those who walked this land long before us. And as we continue our journey through these ancient landscapes, we are reminded that the story of human history is far from complete. There is still much hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. Leaving behind the megalithic mystery of Dolmen de la Roche-aux-Fées, we now venture north to one of the most remarkable and enigmatic ancient settlements ever discovered, the Neolithic village of Skara Brae. Nestled on the wind-swept Orkney Islands off the northern coast of Scotland, Skara Brae presents a vision of ancient life that is both familiar and utterly strange. Buried for thousands of years beneath a blanket of sand, the site was revealed in 1850 when a fierce storm eroded the soil, unveiling the remarkably preserved ruins of this ancient settlement, which dates back to around 3100 BC. The first thing that strikes you when you approach Skara Brae is the overwhelming sense of preservation. The settlement, consisting of 8 stone-built houses, is one of the best preserved examples of a Neolithic village anywhere in the world. The walls of the houses, made from large, carefully stacked stones, have endured the ravages of time, standing tall against the harsh elements of the Orkney Islands. The roofs, long since gone, were likely made from turf or thatch, but the remnants of hearths, storage areas, and other domestic features still stand out in stark relief, as though the village was frozen in time, waiting for someone to uncover its secrets. As you move deeper into the village, you notice the striking uniformity of the homes. Each house has a central hearth, around which various stone furniture items are arranged: benches, cupboards, and even beds, all carefully carved from stone. These stone furnishings, which may seem unusual by modern standards, suggest that the people of Skara Brae lived in a community where resources were scarce, and where craftsmanship and practicality were of paramount importance. The village's design seems both functional and ingenious, with each house interconnected by narrow, stone-built passages that suggest a close-knit, cooperative society. The layout and arrangement of the homes hint at a level of social organization and community planning that goes beyond what we typically associate with Neolithic settlements. Yet, despite its remarkable preservation and the wealth of information it provides about daily life in the Neolithic era, many questions about Skara Brae remain unanswered. Perhaps the most intriguing mystery revolves around the sudden and unexplained abandonment of the village around 2500 BC. The site shows no evidence of violent destruction or invasion. Rather, it seems as though the inhabitants simply left, without a trace. What prompted this mass departure? Did the people of Skara Brae move to another location, or did environmental changes, such as a shift in climate or a depletion of resources, force them to abandon their homes? While these theories seem plausible, no definitive answers have emerged, leaving us to wonder what might have driven an entire community to suddenly vanish. Some researchers suggest that the people of Skara Brae may have been part of a larger interconnected culture that spanned the British Isles and beyond. Evidence of trade, such as items made from materials not found locally, suggests that the inhabitants of Skara Brae were in contact with other communities, possibly even as far afield as mainland Europe. This raises another set of questions. What was the nature of these long-distance connections? Could Skara Brae have been a part of a larger ritual or cultural network that has yet to be fully understood? Were the people who lived here part of a wider system of religious or social practice, one that extended far beyond the confines of the Orkney Islands? Adding to the intrigue of Skara Brae are the enigmatic artifacts that have been discovered at the site. The most striking of these are the intricate stone objects, some of which appear to be symbolic or ceremonial in nature. These items include carved stone discs, tools, and small figurines, some of which may have been used in religious or spiritual rituals. The people of Skara Brae, like other Neolithic cultures, were deeply connected to the natural world, and the presence of these items suggests that they may have held spiritual beliefs that are now lost to us. What was their relationship with the forces of nature, and how did they view the world around them? Were these stone objects used in ceremonies to mark important events or transitions in life, such as births, deaths, or the changing of the seasons? The craftsmanship of the people of Skara Brae also raises fascinating questions about their technical abilities. The stone furniture and tools they created show a high degree of skill and precision, suggesting that these people possessed not only a keen understanding of their environment, but also a remarkable level of craftsmanship. How did they develop such advanced techniques, and what knowledge did they have of working with stone and other materials? Were these skills passed down through generations, or did the builders of Skara Brae draw upon forgotten traditions and techniques that have been lost over time? Perhaps the most mysterious aspect of Skara Brae is the village's relationship with the larger landscape. Located near the shore, the settlement was exposed to the elements, and the residents likely had a deep connection to the sea. The presence of fishing tools and evidence of fish consumption suggests that the people of Skara Brae relied on the ocean for sustenance. But the location of the village also raises questions about the larger worldview of the people who lived here. Did they believe that their settlement was part of a larger cosmic order, linked to the movements of the sun, the moon, or the stars? Some archaeologists have suggested that the village may have been intentionally placed in alignment with astronomical events, similar to other ancient sites we've explored. Could Skara Brae have been a site of ritual significance? A place where the natural world and the spiritual world were believed to intersect? Theories abound about the purpose of Skara Brae, ranging from the suggestion that it was a simple farming community to the belief that it may have served as a site for ceremonial practices, ancestor worship, or even astronomical observations. But like so many ancient mysteries, the truth remains elusive. What exactly did the people of Skara Brae believe? What rituals or traditions did they practice? And what caused their sudden disappearance? The mysteries of this extraordinary settlement continue to captivate archaeologists, historians, and curious minds alike. What remains clear, however, is that Skara Brae offers us an intimate glimpse into the lives of an ancient people, one that is both remarkably sophisticated and strikingly enigmatic. It's a place that raises as many questions as it answers, a place where the echoes of a lost world still resonate across the centuries. As we walk among the ruins of Skara Brae, we are reminded that the past is never truly gone, only waiting to be rediscovered, piece by piece. The mystery of why this settlement flourished and then vanished remains unsolved, urging us to continue searching, to continue asking, and to remain open to the possibility that we may one day uncover the full story of Skara Brae, a story that still lies buried beneath the earth. As we leave behind the hauntingly preserved village of Skara Brae, we travel further south to the rolling hills of southern England, where an even more monumental mystery lies in wait. Here, amid the vast fields and quiet countryside, stands the Avebury Stone Circle, one of the largest and most enigmatic prehistoric sites in Europe. Less famous than its neighbor Stonehenge, Avebury is no less captivating in its mystery, perhaps even more so given its size and the sense of quiet isolation that surrounds it. Avebury consists of an immense stone circle, surrounded by a massive earth bank and ditch, forming a near-perfect circle with a diameter of over 330 meters. The scale of this structure is awe-inspiring. The stones themselves, some of which weigh several tons, are arranged in a pattern that stretches out across the land, seeming to merge with the natural landscape in a way that feels both deliberate and mystifying. While many of the original stones have fallen or been removed over time, enough remain to give a sense of the circle's grandeur. The stone formations, along with their alignment to the surrounding landscape and sky, suggest a purpose that goes far beyond mere decoration. As you approach the circle, the first thing that strikes you is the way the stones stand so resolutely against the vast open space. Each stone, shaped and placed with care, speaks of a people who understood something beyond the material world. But what was it that they sought to communicate? What knowledge did they possess, and what did these stones represent to them? These questions linger as you move closer to the stones, feeling their weight not only in the physical sense but also in the sense of their presence. What secrets are held within this ancient, silent ring? The construction of Avebury is dated to around 2600 BC, during the Neolithic period, when society was beginning to shift from a primarily hunting and gathering existence to settled farming communities. This transition likely had profound implications for the way people viewed the world. The builders of Avebury, however, seem to have been more than simple farmers. They were part of a society with a deep understanding of the earth, the sky, and the forces that govern them. The alignment of the stones with the cardinal directions and their connection to the solstices and equinoxes suggests a profound astronomical knowledge, one that goes beyond what was expected of ancient peoples. Yet, despite the vastness of the Avebury site and its intricate relationship with the land, much of its meaning remains unclear. What was its purpose? Was it simply a place for ceremonial gatherings, a site of worship, or something more? Scholars have long debated the reasons behind the construction of the stone circle. Some suggest that Avebury served as a place of ritual, where communities gathered to mark the changing seasons or to honor the gods. Its alignment with the sun, moon, and stars hints at a people who not only observed these celestial bodies, but sought to align themselves with them in some way. Was it a tool for tracking time and the seasons, or was it a way to connect with something far greater, perhaps a divine or spiritual realm? Others propose that Avebury might have been a site for ancestor worship or burial rituals. The earthworks surrounding the stone circle are thought to have been once topped with mounds or barrows, some of which may have been burial sites for important individuals. The connection between the living and the dead seems to be a recurring theme at ancient sites like this, and Avebury may have served as a place where those who had passed could be honored or even called upon in the rituals of the living. There are also theories that the stones themselves may have been seen as embodiments of ancient deities or forces of nature. If the stones were, in fact, representations of gods, ancestors, or spirits, could they have been used as a medium through which the living could communicate with the divine? The large stones, some with intricate carvings and others seemingly untouched by time, might have been seen as more than just markers. They could have been living entities in their own right, carriers of power and wisdom. As we contemplate the purpose of Avebury, we are faced with another unsettling mystery. Why was it built on such a grand scale? The sheer size and effort that must have gone into the construction of this stone circle suggest that the people behind it were not only motivated by spiritual or ritualistic desires, but by something more. Could Avebury have been a demonstration of power, a way to mark territory or establish social and political order? Some have even proposed that the stone circle was a symbol of unity, a shared identity for the people of the region. Was it a way to bring together disparate communities, binding them to a common cause or belief? Adding to the mystery of Avebury are the numerous other features in the area, including the nearby West Kennet Long Barrow and Silbury Hill, two other monuments that seem to form part of a larger ceremonial complex. Silbury Hill, an artificial mound that stands 40 meters high, is one of the largest prehistoric structures in Europe. Its purpose is still debated, but it seems to have been constructed around the same time as Avebury. The alignment of these structures, together with the stone circle, suggests that Avebury was not an isolated site, but part of a larger interconnected landscape of ritual and spiritual importance. Yet, as much as Avebury invites speculation and offers tantalizing clues, it also resists easy interpretation. The lack of written records leaves us to rely on the physical evidence, stone, earth, and a scattering of artifacts, to understand what Avebury meant to the people who built it. Was it a site for astronomical observation, a place of religious worship, or perhaps something more profound, something that connected the builders to forces beyond the tangible world? It is also worth considering the role of Avebury in the context of other ancient stone circles, such as Stonehenge. The two sites are often compared, given their proximity and similar functions as astronomical and ritual sites, but the differences are just as intriguing. While Stonehenge is more famous for its concentric circles of stones, Avebury's vastness and open design give it a different energy. The stones of Avebury are not confined by a set layout. They spread across the landscape, merging with the earth itself. This open, sprawling design hints at a different kind of relationship with the land, one that was perhaps more expansive, more attuned to the natural rhythms of the earth. As we stand before the stones of Avebury, we are left with many unanswered questions. What did the builders of this grand stone circle truly believe? Was Avebury a reflection of their spiritual world, their understanding of the cosmos, or was it something entirely different? Did they see the stones as conduits to the divine, or were they symbols of something much deeper, a way to communicate with ancestors, with gods, or with forces beyond the visible world? Perhaps the answers will never be fully known, but that, too, is part of the allure of Avebury. The stones stand resolute, their quiet mystery enduring across millennia. What was once created as a tool for the living may now serve as a reminder of just how little we truly understand about the ancient peoples who constructed these monumental sites. What secrets do the stones still hold, buried beneath the weight of history, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered? As we continue our journey through time, Avebury invites us to look more deeply, to question more profoundly, and to wonder what other truths might still be hidden beneath the surface of the earth. As we leave behind the sprawling landscape of Avebury, with its vast stone circles and ancient alignments, we now turn our attention to a more intimate yet equally mysterious site nestled in the English countryside, Stony Littleton Long Barrow. Situated near Bath, in the heart of the West Country, this Neolithic burial mound might seem unassuming at first, hidden within a quiet grove of trees, its ancient stones now weathered by time. Yet beneath the earth lies a structure that, even after thousands of years, continues to raise questions and intrigue archaeologists and historians alike. The Long Barrow itself, an ancient tomb built around 3500 BC, stretches approximately 24 meters in length, its carefully constructed stone facade peeking through a layer of moss and overgrowth. Unlike the more open burial mounds of the Neolithic, Stony Littleton is unique in that it has an entrance that leads into a long, narrow passageway. This passage, almost like a dark tunnel into the past, stretches into the mound, its walls lined with stone slabs. It is a passage that invites exploration, but also one that evokes a sense of foreboding, as if the mound itself holds something within, something both deeply sacred and profoundly mysterious. As you step closer to the entrance, it becomes clear that Stony Littleton is not just a burial site, but a place of ritual, a place where the dead were not simply laid to rest, but were perhaps integrated into the spiritual fabric of the community. The Long Barrow is divided into chambers, each one carefully constructed to hold the remains of the deceased. Within these chambers, archaeologists have found evidence of secondary burials, remains that were placed there after the body had been left to decompose, suggesting that the people who built Stony Littleton may have practiced a form of ancestor worship or a complex funeral rite. But it is not just the burial practices that make Stony Littleton Long Barrow so compelling. It is the structure itself. The layout of the barrow, with its long passage leading to inner chambers, suggests that it was more than just a tomb. Some scholars speculate that the passage and the alignment of the chambers might have been intended to mimic the journey of the soul, guiding the dead through a symbolic path toward the afterlife. Could the Long Barrow have been a kind of portal? A threshold between the world of the living and the realm of the ancestors or gods? The mystery deepens when we consider the strange alignment of the passage. Unlike many other Neolithic tombs, which are aligned with the solstices or the cardinal directions, Stony Littleton's passage seems to point towards something different, something that is not immediately obvious. Some researchers have suggested that the Long Barrow may be aligned with a particular star or celestial body, adding an astronomical dimension to its purpose. Could it have been designed to track the movement of the heavens, just as many ancient monuments were? Was the passageway a means of connecting the earthly and the cosmic? Or was there a deeper, more spiritual meaning behind its layout, one that has been lost to time? Within the chambers themselves, the evidence becomes even more enigmatic. Archaeologists have found bone fragments, flint tools, and pottery. But what stands out are the human remains. Unlike many other burial sites, where entire skeletons are buried, the remains found at Stony Littleton appear to have been deliberately fragmented, with bones often scattered or placed in odd configurations. What does this tell us about the practices of the people who constructed the barrow? Was this an intentional act, perhaps signifying a belief in the resurrection of the dead or the need to reunite the disjointed parts of the soul? Or was it a more practical decision, reflecting the rituals of secondary burial, where bones were moved or reburied over time? One of the most intriguing aspects of Stony Littleton Long Barrow is the question of why it was built in the first place. Was it simply a burial site, or did it serve a broader function? The location of the barrow, hidden in a grove of trees and tucked away from the larger settlements of the region, suggests that it may have had a ceremonial or ritual significance. Was it a sacred space used for communal gatherings, where the living could interact with their ancestors? Or was it a place of solitude, where the dead were separated from the everyday world to rest in peace? The isolation of the barrow adds an air of mystery, as if it was designed to be deliberately apart from the rest of the world. Some have speculated that the barrow may have been a site of initiation or spiritual transformation. The long, narrow passageway, which can only be entered through the darkness of its entrance, might symbolize a journey, a passage through darkness into light, or from the world of the living into the world of the dead. Could it have been a place where rituals were performed to mark significant life transitions, such as birth, death, or passage into adulthood? The idea of a journey through darkness, both physical and spiritual, resonates with many ancient cultures that saw death as a form of transformation rather than an end. As we look at the barrow's architecture, the use of stone also raises fascinating questions. The builders of Stony Littleton chose large, carefully shaped stones to create a space that would withstand the ravages of time. Why were these stones so carefully selected? And why, given the difficulty of obtaining and transporting such large stones, did they go to such great lengths to build this particular site? Were the stones thought to carry spiritual significance? Or were they chosen for their durability, ensuring that the site would endure for generations, perhaps to serve as a permanent home for the dead? Another question that continues to intrigue researchers is the meaning behind the elaborate construction of the barrow's chambers. The way the chambers are constructed, with their precise arrangement and careful placement of stones, suggests a sophisticated knowledge of architecture and engineering. How did the people who built Stony Littleton acquire such skills? Was there a specialized group responsible for these constructions? Perhaps an elite class of builders or spiritual leaders who passed down their knowledge through generations? Or was the construction of such sites a communal effort, with the entire society working together to create these powerful, symbolic structures? The secrets of Stony Littleton Long Barrow are still buried beneath the earth, as silent and still as the bones it once contained. Despite decades of archaeological study, many of the questions surrounding the site remain unanswered. Was it a place of ritual and sacrifice, or simply a burial ground for the dead? Why was it constructed with such care? And what did its builders hope to achieve by aligning the passage in such a specific way? The barrow's carefully preserved bones, fragmented yet carefully arranged, continue to speak of a culture that placed immense importance on death, the afterlife, and the journey through both physical and spiritual realms. But the true meaning of these ancient rituals is still a mystery, one that may never fully be understood. As we leave the shadowed passageway of Stony Littleton behind, we are left with a lingering sense of wonder. What secrets remain hidden within its stone chambers? What did the people of the Neolithic truly believe about life, death, and the afterlife? The mysteries of Stony Littleton Long Barrow, like so many ancient sites, continue to elude our grasp, inviting us to ask more questions, to search for more answers, and to wonder what other long-forgotten truths may still be waiting to be uncovered. As we leave behind the enigmatic chambers of Stony Littleton Long Barrow, our journey through time continues, now taking us to the sun-drenched island of Sardinia, a place where myths and reality intertwine, and the past often seems to echo from the ancient stones scattered across the landscape. Here, in the rugged terrain of this Mediterranean island, lies one of the most mysterious and awe-inspiring archaeological sites in Europe, the Giants' Tombs of Sardinia. Known locally as Tombe dei Giganti, these monumental structures dot the island, standing as silent sentinels to a long-forgotten past, their purpose and meaning still elusive, even after centuries of study. The Giants' Tombs are not single monuments, but rather a collection of megalithic burial sites, with over 30 sites still visible across Sardinia today. Each tomb is typically made up of a long stone corridor, or dromos, leading into a burial chamber. These tombs are often flanked by two massive upright stones, creating a striking, gate-like entrance, and they are usually aligned with a precise astronomical or geographical orientation. The design of the tombs, with their massive stone walls and perfectly crafted entrances, suggests a culture that was not only skilled in construction, but one that had a deep understanding of astronomy and the landscape surrounding them. The size and grandeur of these tombs immediately set them apart from other burial structures of the same period. The largest of these tombs, like the one at Codu Vecchio, measures over 20 meters in length, with the corridor itself leading to a central burial chamber where human remains were once interred. The stones used to construct these tombs are often massive, some weighing several tons, and are placed with such precision that it is difficult to imagine how they were transported and positioned by the ancient builders. The sheer scale of these tombs suggests that they were not only burial sites but monumental markers, perhaps intended to honor the dead in a way that reflected their importance to the community. But who were these people, and what motivated them to construct such grand tombs? What did they believe about life, death, and the afterlife? While the tombs' construction techniques are impressive, it is the mystery surrounding their names that adds an extra layer of intrigue. The term Tomb of the Giants itself is a modern invention, stemming from local folklore that tells of giants, beings of enormous size, who once inhabited Sardinia. The legend suggests that the tombs were built by these giants, who were said to have fallen in battle or died from some other great tragedy. In fact, the term Giant's Tomb likely originated from the local belief that the large stones used to construct these structures were too massive for mere humans to have moved. This idea of giants, though clearly mythological, raises an important question. Could the tombs have been constructed to honor a legendary, perhaps even divine figure? A ruler or hero whose stature was symbolic of their status in life and death? Archaeological evidence, however, does not support the idea of giants. Instead, the tombs are thought to have been built by a Bronze Age civilization known as the Nuragic people, who inhabited Sardinia from approximately 1800 BC to 500 BC. These people were known for their distinctive stone towers, called nuragies, and for their skill in stone construction. The Nuragic people lived in a society that seemed to place great importance on ancestor worship and the connection between the living and the dead. This is evidenced not only by the giants' tombs, but also by the numerous sacred wells, temples, and other ceremonial structures scattered across the island. Yet, despite the fact that we can identify the builders of the tombs, we still know very little about their beliefs, their rituals, and their reasons for constructing such large and complex burial sites. One possible explanation for the size and complexity of the giants' tombs lies in the concept of ancestor veneration. Many ancient societies placed great emphasis on honoring their dead, especially those who held significant social or spiritual roles during their lives. The tombs may have been built to house the remains of important individuals, perhaps rulers, warriors, or spiritual leaders, whose legacies were seen as vital to the well-being of the community. The monumental scale of these tombs suggests that the people who constructed them believed in the power of the deceased to influence the living, either through protection, guidance, or spiritual presence. Could it be that these giant tombs were meant to be places where the spirits of the honored dead could remain in close proximity to their descendants, offering them strength and favor from beyond the grave? Some have suggested that the giants' tombs might also be linked to astronomical observances. The alignment of many of the tombs suggests that the builders had a sophisticated understanding of the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. Several tombs are aligned to the solstices or other significant celestial events, indicating that the burial rituals may have been intimately connected to the cycles of nature. Did the builders of these tombs believe that the deceased could be linked to the cosmos, or perhaps that the spirits of the dead would travel among the stars? Some researchers even speculate that the alignment of the tombs might have served as a way of marking the passage of time, or a means of communicating with celestial beings during ritual ceremonies. The connection between the dead and the heavens is a theme that appears in many ancient cultures, and the Nuragic people of Sardinia may have shared in this belief, seeking to connect the physical world with the spiritual realm through their tombs. But not all of the mysteries surrounding the giants' tombs can be explained by the actions or beliefs of the Nuragic people. One of the most puzzling aspects of these monuments is their seeming purpose. Were they simply tombs? Or did they serve a broader societal function, one that has since been lost to history? Some researchers have argued that the giants' tombs may have been used for ritual gatherings, where members of the community came together to honor the deceased. If this were the case, could the tombs have also been places where other, more spiritual or even political events were held? Perhaps rituals that were central to the social fabric of the Nuragic people? Were these tombs used as locations for the transmission of power, wisdom, or divine authority? And if so, how did the community view the relationship between their living rulers and the ancestors buried in the tombs? The mystery of the giants' tombs deepens further when we consider the sheer number of these structures across Sardinia. With over 30 sites spread across the island, the tombs appear to have been an important and widespread aspect of Nuragic society. Why did the Nuragic people construct so many tombs, each one unique in its design but similar in its monumental scale? Were these tombs intended to be markers of territorial boundaries, places where each community could assert its identity and connect with its ancestors? Or did they represent something more, a collective memory of a people whose traditions were meant to endure through time? Adding to the intrigue is the relative lack of information regarding the specific individuals interred within the tombs. Unlike in other ancient burial sites, where the names and titles of the deceased are often recorded, the identities of those buried in the giants' tombs remain a mystery. Were the people buried in these tombs leaders, warriors, or perhaps even religious figures? Or were they more ordinary individuals, their deaths elevated to a level of significance through the grand tombs that marked their resting places? The lack of grave goods or inscriptions in many of the tombs suggests that the builders may not have intended these sites as personal memorials, but rather as communal markers, memorials to the collective history of the people rather than to individual achievements. Despite the years of research, the true purpose of the giants' tombs of Sardinia remains an open question, a mystery wrapped in stone and time. Did the tombs function solely as burial sites, or were they places of spiritual or political significance? Were they built to honor the dead, or did they also serve a larger, more symbolic role in connecting the living to the past? Perhaps the most profound mystery is the way in which these tombs, standing silent on the Sardinian landscape, continue to raise questions about the beliefs and rituals of a civilization long vanished. What knowledge do these stones still hold, waiting to be uncovered by those with the patience and curiosity to listen? As we leave the island of Sardinia behind, we are reminded that the past is never fully gone. It lingers in the stones, in the earth, and in the echoes of forgotten rituals. The mystery of the giants' tombs is far from solved, but in their silent, towering presence, they continue to beckon us to look deeper into the ancient world and to ask the questions that have yet to be answered. What still lies hidden beneath these stones?
and what might we yet learn from the ancient people who built them? As we leave behind the towering stone tombs of Sardinia, we now turn eastward into the heart of ancient Anatolia to uncover the mysteries of a settlement that predates even the great cities of Mesopotamia. Here, in the lush plains of central Turkey, lies the extraordinary archaeological site of Çatalhöyük, one of the most important and enigmatic settlements of the Neolithic period. Unlike the monumental stone structures that we've encountered so far, Çatalhöyük is a place of mud brick and timber, yet it holds mysteries just as deep and profound as any megalithic tomb. The site of Çatalhöyük is vast, an area of approximately 13 hectares, about 32 acres, and is believed to have been inhabited between 7,100 BC and 5,700 BC. What makes Çatalhöyük particularly striking is not its size or its age, but its design, its urban layout, and the incredible insights it offers into the earliest stages of human civilization. Here, amid the mud and brick, the inhabitants of this ancient city lived in a manner that defies conventional understanding of early human life. The buildings of Çatalhöyük were densely packed, with no streets separating them. Instead, the residents lived in large, interconnected houses, all constructed with mud brick and timber, and often clustered together in tight groups. The houses were built side by side, with flat roofs and no windows or doors on the ground level. To enter a home, one would climb a ladder to the roof, where an opening would allow access to the interior. This labyrinthine construction, with its interwoven houses, gives the site an almost otherworldly feeling, as though it were a city of shadows and passageways, an ancient maze that has preserved its secrets for millennia. Inside the homes, the floors were often covered with layers of plaster, and the walls adorned with intricate murals. The rooms were furnished with simple items, such as storage bins, hearths, and areas for sleeping. But what truly sets Çatalhöyük apart are the thousands of wall paintings and sculptures that have been uncovered, offering a glimpse into the spiritual and cultural life of the community. The murals depict scenes of hunting, rituals, and symbolic motifs, images of wild animals, human figures, and mysterious symbols that suggest the people of Çatalhöyük held complex spiritual beliefs. These artworks hint at a society deeply attuned to the natural world around them, one that saw the landscape not only as a source of sustenance, but as a place of power and mystery. Some of the murals even depict the heads of wild animals, which may have been a symbolic representation of the hunting practices that were central to the community's economy. But what does this tell us about their worldview? Why, for example, were such vivid and often violent images of animals so prevalent in their art? Were the people of Çatalhöyük attempting to capture the essence of these creatures, or were they invoking them for spiritual or magical purposes, perhaps to ensure a successful hunt or to ward off dangerous forces? The presence of these murals and sculptures also raises the question of religion and ritual. While there is evidence that the people of Çatalhöyük practiced ancestor worship and engaged in communal feasts, the exact nature of their spiritual beliefs remains a mystery. Some researchers have suggested that the murals and figurines might represent fertility cults, as many of the depictions focus on the themes of animals, human sexuality, and the cycles of life and death. There are also intriguing sculptures of women, some with exaggerated breasts and hips, which have led some to hypothesize that fertility and motherhood played a central role in their religious practices. But could the people of Çatalhöyük have believed in a pantheon of gods, or were their beliefs focused on ancestral spirits, forces of nature, or perhaps something even more abstract and mysterious? In addition to the murals, another remarkable feature of Çatalhöyük is the presence of shrines within many of the homes. These shrines often contained figurines and altars, some of which depict the heads of animals or even human-like figures. These ritual spaces suggest that religion was not confined to temples or public spaces,
but was deeply woven into the fabric of everyday life. It seems that the people of Çatalhöyük saw their homes not just as places of shelter, but as sacred spaces, homes where the dead were honored and where rituals took place to ensure the prosperity and protection of the living. This blending of the sacred and the mundane is something we find in few other ancient societies, and it raises the question, how did the people of Çatalhöyük conceive of their relationship to the divine? The idea of a home as a sacred space is further supported by the practice of burial within the walls of the houses. In several of the dwellings, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of the deceased, sometimes buried beneath the floors or within specially designated niches in the walls. This burial practice suggests that death was an integral part of the household, not something to be feared or avoided. The dead were kept close, their bodies preserved within the very fabric of the home, perhaps as a means of maintaining a connection between the living and the dead. What does this tell us about the people of Çatalhöyük? Could it be that they believed the spirits of their ancestors were always present, watching over their descendants and offering guidance? Or were these burials part of a broader ritual to honor the deceased, ensuring that their memory and influence remained alive in the community? Despite the many mysteries of Çatalhöyük, one of the most puzzling aspects of the site is its sudden and unexplained abandonment. By around 5700 BC, the city was largely deserted, with no clear signs of warfare, famine, or natural disaster. Some have speculated that the settlement was abandoned due to a shift in environmental conditions, perhaps changes in the climate or the availability of resources. Others suggest that the social dynamics of the community may have shifted, leading to the eventual collapse of the settlement. It's also possible that the people of Çatalhöyük migrated to other areas, seeking new opportunities or more fertile lands. But why, after such a long period of thriving, did the people of this advanced society suddenly leave? And why did they not return? Could there have been other, more mysterious factors at play, such as a spiritual or religious crisis, a change in belief systems that led to the abandonment of the site? Some researchers have even proposed that the site may have been abandoned due to the people's belief in the sacredness of the land itself. Perhaps, after centuries of inhabiting the same location, they felt that their time there had come to an end, and that to remain would have been disrespectful to the spirits that they had honored. Or, could the abandonment have been tied to a broader cultural or political shift, a change in leadership, or perhaps an external influence that we have yet to uncover? The question of why Çatalhöyük was abandoned remains one of the most enduring mysteries of the site. But perhaps it is this very mystery that makes the settlement so captivating. Unlike other ancient cities that left behind records of their demise, the people of Çatalhöyük left no written history, no monumental inscriptions, no final words to explain their disappearance. Instead, they left behind a place, an intricate and highly developed settlement with art, ritual, and evidence of complex social structures that continues to fascinate and bewilder archaeologists and historians alike. Çatalhöyük is a testament to the complexity and depth of early human civilization. It challenges our understanding of what Neolithic society was capable of and invites us to look deeper into the spiritual, cultural, and social life of its inhabitants. What were the people of Çatalhöyük truly trying to achieve with their elaborate rituals and burial practices? Were they attempting to transcend the limitations of their physical existence, or were they simply living in harmony with the world around them, seeking a deeper connection to the earth, the animals, and the spirits that surrounded them? And, most haunting of all, why did they leave? The answers to these questions, like the murals on the walls of their homes, remain partially obscured, hidden beneath the layers of time and earth. But as we continue to explore the enigmatic past of Çatalhöyük, we are reminded that, sometimes, the most compelling mysteries are not those that can be solved, but those that continue to invite us to wonder, to search, and to imagine what might still be hidden, waiting to be discovered. After exploring the ancient ruins of Çatalhöyük, we now turn our attention to a vast and mysterious site that sits at the heart of North America, the Cahokia Mounds. Located in what is now southern Illinois, near present-day St. Louis, Missouri, Cahokia was once the largest pre-Columbian settlement north of Mexico. At its height, around 1100 AD, it was a thriving urban center, teeming with life and home to thousands of people. Yet, despite its impressive size and advanced construction, Cahokia remains shrouded in mystery, its rise, peak, and eventual decline still largely unexplained. When you first approach Cahokia Mounds, the sprawling, verdant landscape unfolds before you, a forested expanse marked by the distinctive earthen mounds that give the site its name. The site consists of over 120 mounds, some reaching heights of over 30 feet, spread across more than 2,000 acres of land. The largest and most imposing of these mounds, Monk's Mound, towers above the others, a massive pyramid-shaped structure rising almost 100 feet from the ground. It's hard not to be struck by the sheer scale and ambition of this monument, especially when considering that it was constructed using nothing more than earth, wooden tools, and the labor of thousands of people. Monk's Mound is not just a burial site, but a symbol of the vast ceremonial and political significance of Cahokia. It is believed to have been the center of the city's power, a monumental platform for religious ceremonies, public gatherings, and possibly the residence of a ruling elite. What makes Monk's Mound so intriguing, however, is not just its size, but the precision and effort involved in its construction. The mound is composed of millions of cubic feet of soil, carefully shaped and arranged in layers. How did the people of Cahokia manage to construct such a vast earthwork without the wheel, metal tools, or advanced engineering knowledge that we would associate with similar feats in other parts of the world? The layout of Cahokia itself offers clues to the complexity of its society. The mounds are arranged in a deliberate, grid-like pattern, suggesting a highly organized urban plan. The site includes ceremonial plazas, residential areas, and evidence of sophisticated agricultural techniques. The people of Cahokia constructed extensive networks of irrigation systems to cultivate crops such as corn, beans, and squash, which sustained their growing population. Yet, despite these advancements, the reasons behind Cahokia's construction and its role in the larger context of Native American history remain unclear. Who were the people who built Cahokia, and why did they choose to construct such a massive, sprawling city? The Cahokians, as they are often referred to, were part of the Mississippian culture, a group of Native American societies that flourished in the central and southeastern United States between 800 AD and 1600 AD. These people were not nomadic hunters and gatherers, but settled agriculturalists who developed a complex, hierarchical society. At its height, Cahokia may have housed as many as 20,000 people, making it a major urban center of its time. But what motivated the inhabitants of this bustling metropolis to invest so much time, energy, and resources into the creation of such a monumental landscape? One prevailing theory is that Cahokia was a center of religious and political power. The construction of Monk's Mound and other large mounds may have been a way for the elite to demonstrate their power and connection to the divine. The Mississippian people were likely influenced by celestial movements, with certain mounds and plazas aligned with the solstices and lunar cycles. This connection to the cosmos may have given the rulers of Cahokia a sense of divine authority, allowing them to control not only the physical space, but also the spiritual and social lives of the people. Could it be that these mounds were not just markers of power, but symbols of cosmic order, intended to align human society with the rhythms of the heavens? At the same time, Cahokia's layout suggests a highly organized and stratified society. The city was divided into distinct residential areas, with the elite living near the ceremonial core of the city, and the commoners residing further out. Archaeological evidence, including artifacts and the remains of structures, suggests that the elite class in Cahokia may have lived in large, elaborately constructed homes made of wood, while commoners lived in smaller, simpler dwellings. The presence of large ceremonial platforms and sacred sites, along with the remains of feasting and ritual activities, points to a society deeply invested in religious observances. The mystery, however, deepens when we consider the sudden and unexplained decline of Cahokia. By the 14th century, the city had been largely abandoned, with many of the mounds and structures left in disrepair. What caused this dramatic fall? Was it a result of warfare, environmental change, or internal social upheaval? Some researchers believe that overexploitation of natural resources, including deforestation and soil erosion, may have led to environmental degradation, contributing to the city's collapse. Others suggest that the decline was related to political or religious turmoil, or that the people of Cahokia moved due to a shift in trade routes or the changing dynamics of the Mississippian culture. Interestingly, there is little evidence of violent conflict or mass destruction at Cahokia, which might suggest that its downfall was not caused by external forces. Instead, the city seems to have simply faded away, as though its people no longer found the site capable of supporting their needs or fulfilling their spiritual and social goals. Could it be that the people of Cahokia believed their time had come, and that abandoning the city was part of a greater spiritual or cultural shift? Were they perhaps driven by the belief that the city's power had waned, and that they needed to move on in search of new beginnings? Another intriguing aspect of Cahokia is the apparent central role of ritual and sacrifice. Excavations at the site have revealed evidence of large-scale ceremonial events, including the burial of thousands of people in mass graves. Some of these individuals were clearly sacrificed, buried with objects that suggest their deaths were part of a ritual. The presence of these sacrificial burials raises questions about the role of religion in Cahokian society. Did the leaders of Cahokia perform these sacrifices to appease the gods, or to maintain their divine right to rule? Were the masses of people who gathered at the site participants in these religious rituals, or were they the subjects of the elite, controlled through a combination of belief and force? The presence of large-scale artifacts, including finely crafted pottery and tools, suggests that Cahokia was not only a center of religious activity, but also an important hub for trade. Artifacts from distant regions, such as copper from the Great Lakes and seashells from the Gulf Coast, have been uncovered at Cahokia, indicating that the city was part of a vast trade network. Could the city's wealth and cultural influence have contributed to its political dominance in the region, or was it the spiritual power of the mounds that made it so important? As we delve deeper into the mysteries of Cahokia, we are left with more questions than answers. Despite decades of excavation, archaeologists and historians still struggle to fully comprehend the city's rise and fall. Was Cahokia a religious utopia, a center of political and social power, or a sprawling trade empire that eventually outgrew its resources? And what exactly led to its decline? The absence of written records, combined with the site's abandonment, leaves much of its story untold. In the end, Cahokia is a place that demands reflection, where the past seems to reach out to us from the earth itself. The mounds stand as silent witnesses to a civilization that once thrived, its people leaving behind a legacy that is both awe-inspiring and perplexing. The mystery of Cahokia is not one that will be solved easily, and perhaps that is the point. Like all the other mysteries we have explored, Cahokia offers us an invitation to look deeper, to question, and to wonder what ancient truths still lie buried beneath the earth, waiting for us to uncover. As we leave behind the bustling mounds of Cahokia, we turn to another ancient burial site, one that has quietly endured for thousands of years in the rolling hills of southern Wales. Here, near the village of St. Nicholas, stands the Tinkinswood burial chamber, an enigmatic monument that continues to captivate archaeologists and visitors alike. Its quiet, solitary presence in the verdant landscape belies the complexity and mystery embedded within its stone structure. The Tinkinswood chamber is not just a burial site. It is a puzzle, an artifact of a distant time when the world looked vastly different, and yet, in many ways, it continues to elude our full understanding. The Tinkinswood burial chamber is part of a broader phenomenon known as the Neolithic megalithic tombs, which were built across Britain and Ireland around 6,000 years ago. These tombs, constructed from large stone slabs, were used to house the dead and were often located in prominent or easily visible sites, as if to mark the landscape with the presence of the deceased. At Tinkinswood, the tomb stands as a remarkable testament to the people who lived here long before the rise of the great cities of the ancient world. The chamber itself is an impressive structure, consisting of a series of massive stone slabs that form a chamber covered by a large capstone weighing an estimated 40 tons. This enormous stone, likely carried from a quarry miles away, is the centerpiece of the tomb, and it's hard to ignore the sheer effort and engineering skill involved in placing it atop the chamber. But the questions begin as soon as we try to understand the meaning of such a grand effort. Who were the people who constructed it, and what drove them to move such immense stones, considering the limited tools they had available at the time? The entrance to the burial chamber is marked by a large stone passage, which, at first glance, might appear as nothing more than a simple pathway leading into the earth. Yet this passage, much like the rest of the monument, was built with intention. Archaeologists have speculated that these structures were not only burial sites, but also symbolic representations of the journey between life and death. A passage that could only be crossed by those who understood the sacred geography of the world. The alignment of the tomb, with its stone slabs and precise construction, suggests that those who built it were keenly aware of celestial events, using the natural world as both a map and a guide for their sacred practices. Could the positioning of the chamber and its surrounding stones have been meant to align with the stars, or perhaps the solstices, marking a powerful connection between the human realm and the cosmos? Inside the chamber, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of multiple individuals. It is believed that this was not just the final resting place for a single person, but rather a communal tomb, where bodies were laid to rest over several generations. The skeletal remains found at Tinkinswood provide important insights into the lives of these ancient people. The bones suggest that the individuals buried here were of varying ages, with some believed to have been part of an elite social class, given the richness of the burial items discovered alongside them. But what is perhaps most intriguing about the Tinkinswood burial chamber is the absence of any clear indication of a specific culture or identity for the people who built it. The Neolithic people of Britain left behind no written records, and much of what we know about them is gleaned from the archaeological record, artifacts, bones, and the structures themselves. The burial chamber at Tinkinswood seems to transcend any one specific cultural tradition, making it difficult to place within the context of a known civilization. While some scholars believe the chamber is linked to the early farmers of the region, who transitioned from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to settled agricultural communities, others suggest that it could have been a site for a much older, more enigmatic people whose story has been lost to time. The burial chamber's location also adds to its mystery. Nestled in a quiet valley, the tomb overlooks a landscape that has changed dramatically over the centuries. At the time it was built, the region would have been a sprawling, densely forested area, far from the urban centers of the ancient world. What prompted the builders of Tinkinswood to choose such a remote, yet seemingly prominent location? Was this land chosen for its symbolic significance, for its connection to the natural world, or perhaps for its proximity to ancient trade or pilgrimage routes? And could the placement of the monument have been a means of asserting a particular claim to power or territory in a time when such structures were the centers of ritual, belief and authority? Archaeologists have also speculated that the burial chamber could have served a social or ceremonial purpose beyond the act of burial. Some have suggested that the tomb was used for more than just the interment of the dead. Perhaps it was a place for ritual ceremonies or for the community to come together in remembrance of their ancestors. The deliberate placement of the massive capstone, which required significant effort and planning, may indicate that it was not simply a tomb, but a monumental marker, representing the power and influence of the people who constructed it. Adding another layer to the intrigue is the discovery of numerous artifacts found near the burial site. Among the finds are pottery fragments, flint tools, and what may be the remains of ceremonial offerings. These items could suggest that Tinkinswood was a place of more than just funerary significance, that it was a focal point for the people's spiritual or religious life. But again, the absence of written language leaves us with more questions than answers. What kind of rituals took place at Tinkinswood? Were these rituals connected to the cycles of nature, or did they involve a belief system centered around ancestors, gods, or the afterlife? Some theories even venture into the realm of the speculative. Could the Tinkinswood burial chamber be tied to the idea of ancient sky gods or celestial beings? The Neolithic people of Britain were keenly attuned to the movement of the sun, the moon, and the stars, and some researchers suggest that their monumental structures were built to honor divine forces linked to the heavens. The idea that the burial chamber could have served as an astronomical observatory or a place of celestial alignment has been proposed, though there is no concrete evidence to confirm this. However, when we consider the care taken in selecting the location and the precise engineering of the tomb, it's impossible to ignore the possibility that the builders had some form of cosmic or spiritual agenda in mind. At its core, Tinkinswood remains a place of mystery, an ancient monument that raises questions we may never fully answer. What prompted these people to create such a grand and complex structure in a time before the rise of written languages or complex political systems? Why did they invest so much time and effort into crafting a burial site of such monumental scale? And what did they hope to achieve through this elaborate display of labor and devotion? Perhaps we will never know the full story of the people who built the Tinkinswood burial chamber. The mound of stones stands silent in the valley, a witness to thousands of years of history. And while we have uncovered much about its construction and its significance, the deeper meanings and motivations of those who created it remain elusive. What other mysteries lie buried beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered? And what stories are still locked away in the stones, waiting for us to uncover their secrets? As we ponder these questions, the Tinkinswood burial chamber invites us to look beyond the physical structure and into the minds and hearts of the ancient people who built it. What did they believe? What did they hope to achieve by erecting this monument to the dead? And what, if anything, might still lie hidden within the earth, waiting for the next generation of archaeologists to uncover? The answers, it seems, may be just beyond our reach, but the mystery of Tinkinswood, like so many other ancient sites, continues to challenge us, inviting us to wonder, to explore, and to imagine what might still be hidden in the shadows of history. As we move further through time, exploring the enigmatic sites that have puzzled humanity for centuries, we now find ourselves at a place of quiet, seemingly unassuming mystery, Cadbury Castle. Perched atop a hill in the rolling countryside of Somerset, England, this ancient site is more than just a hill fort. It has long been the focus of speculation, legend, and intrigue, especially for those who believe in its connection to the legendary King Arthur. Cadbury Castle, known locally as Cadbury Camp, is a sprawling circular fortification that rises dramatically above the surrounding landscape. Its steep, verdant slopes, ringed by the remnants of ancient walls and earthworks, seem to echo the forgotten stories of centuries past. The site is covered in a dense blanket of green, but even the thick grass and trees cannot entirely obscure the weight of history that hangs in the air. From the top of the hill, the panoramic view stretches across the valley below, a sweeping vista that has likely looked much the same for thousands of years. Here, amidst the wind and the quiet hum of nature, one can almost imagine what it must have been like during its time of glory. The site of Cadbury Castle is situated within an ancient landscape, steeped in both history and myth. The hill fort itself is an impressive structure, with massive earthworks and high defensive banks that would have made it an imposing stronghold in its day. Evidence suggests that it was inhabited during the Iron Age and early Roman period, but the mystery surrounding the site deepens when we consider its association with Arthurian legend. Some have proposed that Cadbury Castle is, in fact, the fabled Camelot, the seat of King Arthur, the legendary ruler of the Britons. This connection to King Arthur is not a modern invention, but rather an ancient thread woven through local folklore and historical writings. The idea that Cadbury Castle might be Camelot was first suggested in the 12th century by Geoffrey of Monmouth, whose History of the Kings of Britain laid the foundation for many of the myths that would become associated with Arthur. According to Geoffrey, Arthur's kingdom stretched from the mountains of Wales to the far reaches of Britain, and the site of Camelot was described as being situated in the southwest of England, an area that includes Somerset. In the centuries that followed, the connection between Cadbury Castle and Camelot only grew stronger. In the 19th and 20th centuries, archaeologists and historians began to excavate the site, uncovering evidence that seemed to support the idea that this was once a major center of power in ancient Britain. At the heart of the fortification, they found a large, flat area surrounded by an impressive earthwork, a structure that could have served as a ceremonial space or the central area for gathering. A large quantity of pottery, metal tools, and other artifacts were uncovered, pointing to a vibrant and prosperous society. But perhaps the most intriguing discovery was the presence of an unusual collection of bronze and iron artifacts, objects that seemed to be of ceremonial rather than practical use. Could these have been related to ritual activities, possibly connected to the legend of King Arthur and his knights? Despite these discoveries, the association between Cadbury Castle and Camelot remains speculative, with no definitive proof to confirm the connection. The site's true purpose and significance are still debated among scholars. Was it merely a stronghold for a powerful tribe or military leader, or was it a more symbolic site, imbued with a sense of mythic grandeur, tied to the powerful stories of Arthur and his knights? The connection to King Arthur is not the only mystery that surrounds Cadbury Castle. The site's location, on top of a hill that offers such commanding views of the surrounding landscape, suggests that it was more than just a place of defense. It is possible that Cadbury Castle was also a center for political and religious power, a place where influential leaders would have gathered to make decisions, exchange ideas, and form alliances. Was the site designed for strategic purposes, providing an elevated vantage point from which to monitor the surrounding region? Or was it more deeply tied to the natural world, perhaps serving as a place of ritual, connected to the cycles of the sun, moon, and stars? Adding to the intrigue is the lack of a clear historical record of Cadbury Castle's occupants. The site was first occupied during the Late Bronze Age or Early Iron Age, a time when Britain was undergoing significant social and cultural changes. By the time the Romans arrived in the 1st century AD, Cadbury Castle had already become an established settlement, but it seems to have been abandoned or forgotten by the time the Romans withdrew from Britain in the 5th century. After that, the site appears to have fallen into obscurity, and its true purpose became lost to history. However, the legends surrounding King Arthur seem to suggest a continuity of occupation long after the Romans left. Could it be that the ancient hill fort at Cadbury Castle continued to serve as a symbolic or ceremonial site for the local population during the post-Roman period? Could the stories of King Arthur be rooted in the real events that took place here, even if the names and details were changed over time. Some scholars have proposed that the Arthurian legend may have been based on real historical figures, leaders who rose to prominence during the tumultuous period following the Roman withdrawal from Britain. Could these figures have been connected to the people who lived at Cadbury Castle? Or is it simply that the legends grew up around the site because of its strategic importance? In addition to the theories about its connection to Camelot, there is another layer of mystery surrounding Cadbury Castle, the question of its construction. How did the ancient inhabitants manage to construct such an elaborate earthwork on top of a hill? The earthworks at Cadbury Castle are substantial, with large banks and ditches that would have required a great deal of labor and engineering skill. How did these people, without the advanced technology of later civilizations, manage to build such a formidable structure? And why did they choose this particular location, with its steep slopes and limited access, to build their stronghold? The answers to these questions remain elusive, and much of the construction process remains a mystery. Despite the lack of definitive answers, Cadbury Castle continues to captivate the imagination of those who visit it, whether as tourists, historians, or romantics. The idea that this site could be connected to King Arthur and his legendary kingdom imbues the landscape with a sense of wonder and possibility. The hill fort's towering presence in the landscape is a testament to the power of the stories that have been woven around it, stories that have endured for over 1,000 years. The enduring connection between Cadbury Castle and Camelot may never be fully proven, but that only adds to the mystery. Was this truly the seat of King Arthur? Or is it simply another piece of the ever-evolving puzzle of British legend and history? The archaeological evidence suggests that Cadbury Castle was once a significant and powerful site, but its full story remains hidden beneath layers of earth, stone, and time. As with many ancient sites, the mystery of Cadbury Castle invites us to ask more questions than it answers. Was it a real, living place of power, or was it transformed over the centuries into something larger than life, a symbol of an age of chivalry and heroism? What might still be hidden beneath the surface of the hill, waiting for discovery? Perhaps, like many of the ancient sites we've explored, the true nature of Cadbury Castle will remain an enduring enigma, one that beckons us to keep searching, questioning, and wondering. The story of King Arthur may have been written in the annals of myth, but the echoes of the past, reverberating from the slopes of Cadbury Castle, continue to resonate in the present.